Right. What's good, people? Hope everybody is well. Uh, Beautiful day today, even though it's raining and all that good stuff, but mainly because I am done grading. I got my first day of my break from work, starting late last night and slept like a baby. And I'm about to do that mess again today. Anyway, hope everybody's well. I see we got a few people in the chat already. What's going on, Damon? What's happening? Good brother Tim, right? Brother Malika, what's going on? Heru, right? We got Wildwood, Ed, what's going on, people? Hope everybody's well, right? Um, Let me go ahead and start by thanking some of my subscribers. Y'all know who I do. Those who subscribe here on YouTube, who are members here on YouTube, and are also supporters on Patreon. Let me go ahead and shout y'all out. Here we go. All right. Again, much appreciation to you for your support. Thank you. Man, this thing is always, let's see here, having more tech issues these days. I'm not sure what's going on with it, but it has been happening more and more. That's really weird. Let me see if it'll go through another channel here. Not moving. I don't know why this is. I wonder if it's something to do with StreamYards. Interesting. All right. Well, let me figure it out. You guys know how this goes. It's always something new. But this is the cost of independent content creating. When you don't have a studio or any of that, you do have the freedom to say what you want. But the challenge is got to handle all of this stuff by yourself. Got to make sure you can speak. You got to make sure all your production is happening properly. And it's all kind of up in the air. So let me try this real quick and see if this will work. There we go. We will go with that. There we go. So some of the stuff is coming through slowly but surely. Y'all know how it go. It's always a bit of a gamble. Let's see here. Man. Something. What is this thing going on? All right, almost there, people. I apologize. All right, let's see if that works. All right, we got a few people in the buildings. Let's see here. Back up a little bit. Some folks have come through. What's up, Barry? See you in there. Joe Average Brother, what's up? Brother Adam. See what's going on. All right, kisses. Good to have you in here. Mr. Collins, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Brother Muwata, always good. Aquateki, what's happening? Yeah, so we got some folks coming up in here. We are broadcasting today on Facebook, YouTube, of course, and Twitch. So I hope, as I said, all is well with you in your life as we get it together over here. So now, let me get this thing going. All right. So, if I have not formally said so, welcome to the Onyx Report. Oh man, this kind of stuff is what I'm talking about. I've not seen this happen before. Man, Anyway, this is what I mean. Now, in all the time I've been using this thing, I've never seen it give me a problem until today. So this is what I mean. Sometimes you don't know where this stuff is going. It just, we'll wake up one day and just all be off. Let me go up a little bit. See if that helps. Almost there. All right, we're going to go with that. Hopefully it'll hold through. Yeah. All right. So, as I said, if I hadn't said it formally, welcome to the Onyx Report, where we as Black male justice advocates uplift Black men and boys using critical analysis. Hope all of you are well. All right. Y'all know how I do. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I would urge you to support the show. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Help us make it happen so we can continue to bring you all of the goodies that we can as often as possible. I'm trying to get back to my little more consistent self, but this last few weeks has been pretty challenging. So we will see what we can do. And I haven't had to resize this since I first set up OBS. So this is weird. Anyway, I think that might do it, or at least well enough for the moment. All right. So yeah, you have a variety of options in terms of supporting the show. You can do so by becoming not only a subscriber. Brother Barry, appreciate that early donation. Said setting off tonight's tuition drive with a like and a share on my Twitter timeline. Much appreciated. Thanks a lot, Brother Barry. As you can see, you can join, you can subscribe. And if you become a member by joining, you have various levels of membership you can entertain. You can also go to Patreon and you can sign up there and support monthly. And you can choose to support the Institute for Black Male Studies there. So please go ahead and check that out. So like I said, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because we got to get to it. But please, as I said, make sure you support the show. Now, y'all know how I do. I generally go ahead and shout out Black men and boys, celebrate Black men and boys, and try and get brothers to Brother Michael, appreciate that support. Thank you. All right, Brother Noah, much appreciated. Thank you. That's a little more like it. Let a brother know. All right. Let me see. Okay. So, yeah, much appreciation, Brother MLR, for the generous donation. Thank you. Shout out to Gold Professor. Y'all check out Gold Professor's show. Go to his channel on YouTube. Check him out. Appreciate the support in the chat. But, we start out with the Sacred Black Masculine series as our way of acknowledging Black men and boys who are doing their thing, especially when we know that the idea about Black males in general is very much the opposite of what we see. So let's go ahead and start some of that. Now, first up, we got a young man here who is 11 years old. And this is an article you can find on yin.com, right? And the title is 11-year-old boy saves classmate from choking and woman from fire on the same day. Yeah, you heard that right. Saved two people on the same day. Hasan Johnson, 11-year-old boy from Oklahoma, was celebrated by police and school board after saving two lives. First, he performed a Heimlich maneuver on a schoolmate who was choking on a bottle cap. And then later in the day, saved a disabled woman from a burning house, right? Says Johnny Teehee, Muskogee City Police Chief. Appreciate that support, Smooth Brew. Thank you very much. Gave the boy an honorary award for his acts of heroism on Tuesday, December 14th, right? So not much written about the article, written on the young man. It was actually fairly poorly written at that, but shout out to him nonetheless. He saved 2 lives in one day, and that is the kind of thing that we like to celebrate over here. So shout out to this young brother, again, whose name is Davon Johnson. Right. All right. Continue on, soldier. Do your thing. Next one up. All right. So this one was an interesting one. And this is one that I hope that we can support on a larger level. This is a piece you can find on who13.com, and it is entitled "Dads on a Mission: A Group of Fathers Want to Help Curb Violence in DMPS Schools." Right? It reads, in Des Moines, Iowa. Fed up with the number of fights at Des Moines Public School District, fathers are starting a new initiative called Dads on a Mission. This is dated December 20th of this year. It says, even though my son is not at risk, he could be at risk because of other kids that are at risk. So I feel like I have to be a dad to all of them, says the initiative's founder, Lance Williams Sr. Sunday night, several dads showed up to support the initiative. Lance Williams Sr. is the initiative's founder. He says his sons attend schools in the district. Williams' son is proud of him, starting Dads on a Mission. The initiative's goal is to allow fathers to volunteer at middle and high schools in the district. The group hopes to meet with students before school, during lunch, and after school. Organizers are working closely with the school district. Fathers will start volunteering at schools on Tuesday. It says, let me skip through some of this. And Williams hopes the group will direct students in the right direction. Any fathers who'd like to join the group should look for Facebook's Dads on a Mission, right? To shout out to them brothers for doing that. We talked about a report not long ago, a few weeks ago, of this happening in some different states. So it's good to see more of this happening. The impact and value of fathers tends to be somewhat overlooked, right? So shout out to those brothers there. Let's see here. Still a little off. Must have been a program update or something, because I noticed some other things were off before too. Anyway, all right. So moving ahead, we have a couple of special shout outs, particular acknowledgments that we need to do. First of which goes to hip hop legend Kango Kid, 55, who had lost his battle with colon cancer. You can find this particular piece in blackenterprise.com, and it is titled "Hip Hop Legend Kango Kid from UTFO, 55 Loses Battle with Colon Cancer." Rapper Kango Kid, who emerged as one of hip hop's earliest stars in the 80s, has succumbed to let me get some of these advertisements out of the way here. Has succumbed to a well-documented battle with colon cancer at the age of 55. News of the pioneering artist's death broke out on social media overnight, with Jermaine Dupri being among the first to offer condolences on Facebook early Saturday morning. It continues. Born Sean Schiller Fequer, and I know I probably mispronounced that, my apologies, was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer in February and immediately began chemotherapy. In October, he revealed on Instagram that he had been hospitalized and was awaiting surgery. He says, "Please forgive me for not returning calls and more. Things have become and are becoming a little more difficult than imagined. I've been admitted again for complications related to my condition. Thank you to those who have been instrumental in my latest ordeal. Your actions have been well received and greatly appreciated. I am blessed to have you by my side through this. I love you all." Over the course of the next few months, Kango shared frequent updates from the hospital, including photos with the many public figures who came to support him. Throughout his hospitalization, he was very transparent about the procedures and challenges he faced, including having to pull strings to be able to see his 6-year-old daughter, Sia. The two were finally reunited just 5 weeks ago. Wow. Damn. And it says, just after Thanksgiving, Kango made headlines when he revealed that newly minted Rock and Roll Hall of Famer LL Cool J was waiting for him when he left the recovery room following his latest surgery. Right. So it says he's the second member of UTFO to have died from cancer. The group, best known for its classic single Roxanne Roxanne, lost educated rapper born Jeffrey Campbell at the age of 54. But it doesn't say when that occurred. So shout out to Kango Kid, who will be missed, right? Yeah, so shout out to him. Let me see here. And as I'm sure many of you in the manosphere are familiar, we recently lost a fellow content creator, one of the founders, or at least foundational figures in the space, one could argue, Mr. David Carroll. I have not had the pleasure of being able to interact with him. I've watched a few videos, but nonetheless wanted to extend my condolences, most particularly to family, to acknowledge the brother who put in quite a bit of work in the space, laying the groundwork, laying the foundation, whether he was, agreed with or not. I've only seen a few videos, but I know he definitely put a foot in people's behind, most particularly brothers, about how we see the world and what we could reevaluate. So I want to acknowledge this brother's passing. And, all I can say is support the channel. Go listen to a few videos. You know what I mean? Support the brother best you can. And I wish his family, my condolences straight up. Let me see here. I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I'm going to bring in a couple of guests that were kind enough to drop through, as busy as they are. And I want to go ahead and welcome them as early as possible so we can get this started. So y'all know, I like to run with my boys. So we got G with the PhD, and we got my good brother, Dr. Ronald Neal. What's up, fellas?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Cool,
Yep.
cool.
Dr. Neal, you in here?
Hello.
What's going on with you, man?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Just doing all
Doing
right.
all right, man. How you?
I'm well, man. I'm well.
Yeah, I just wanted to now before we get started, I just dropped a word about David Carroll passing. I wanted to give you guys an opportunity if you wanted to say anything, or we mentioned the Kango Kid as well, or anything else y'all wanted to kick off as far as that. Let us know.
Well, I grew up listening to UTFO, so
Real talk.
I haven't been really paying attention to social media lately. So, shout out to him and condolences to the brother in the space that passed.
Right.
I haven't had the opportunity to listen to any of his content, but God bless.
Indeed.
Yeah. I
Go
yeah. It was so a major loss. A major hip hop figure who helped shape an entire generation. You know what I'm saying, with his music early on, man. And
yeah.
I remember those wars, those Roxanne wars, man. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I remember those wars, man, and the unique kind of flavor that UTFO had as a group, but like individually, the different members and stuff like that, and what Kango brought to the game and all that. And so, he made this contribution to, an art form that has lasted the test of time, man. So condolences to him and his family. You know what I mean? David Carroll, I mean, that was a major loss. I'm someone who I've followed him for years, and I supported the Rabbit Hole and everything. And he was an old school black man. I put it like that, old school black man. He gave it to black men and black society straight, with no chaser. Is very independent thinker and firm in his convictions. Didn't care about being popular or anything, and there was much to be admired about his style and what he put out there. And so, sorry that he passed again as young as he was. You know what I mean? And
which is something we're seeing a lot of lately. all the more reason for us to take care of ourselves. I know you just did a stream kind of highlighting that. Want to point people to it?
Yeah. So I just posted a video, titled "Why Black Men Must Take Care of Themselves," and yeah, it's in light of what's happening with us and all these, early deaths, with black men. Men dying in their 50s. I mean, that's young. You know what I'm saying? You don't reach 60, um, and a lot of stuff, is beyond our control, in terms of health or whatever, and external circumstances. But there are also matters that we can control. You know what I mean? And to the extent that we can, control our final outcomes, man, I think that we should, man, and that we should, do as much as we can to have longevity, man. You know what I mean? And to go out with a bang. So yeah, brothers, take care of yourselves, man. Take care of yourselves. Do everything that you can to maintain your mental health and your physical health and just your overall well-being. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this we're going to kick off a discussion that I think so many of us can contribute to, and I hope in particular when I open it up a little bit later that brother Keep It 100 can come through, as well as Dr. Thunder. But I didn't ask you in time, so I understand if your schedule doesn't permit. But tonight's discussion is basically dealing with a concept that many of us have been familiar with. And if you're Gen X like myself, you grew up in an environment where this was something you heard a lot, right? We're talking about the idea of being a good black man, what that entails, what experiences we've had with that, and what reflections. And I wanted to bring in these two brothers because this is a discussion we have informally all the time, and they can bring to bear not only their own experiences but their own analytical gifts to the conversation. But I wanted to really just kind of jump into this and not spend a lot of time on too many other things, because I know there's a lot to be said on this, and I know people are going to have a lot they want to contribute. But this is a real issue. This is a real issue for black men in particular. Um, Especially again, if you came up in the 80s, not in the 90s, this is something you may have heard. I know I definitely did. But let's start out with kind of a general framework. And again, I know this is, a bit informal, but to you two brothers, starting out with Brother Gigi, what was it that you were introduced to when you were told about what it means to be a good black man? Can you remember that?
Having respect for women, making sure that you can take care of yourself, making sure that you stay out of trouble,
Okay.
and making sure that you're able to have a career and make some money,
Mm,
and just being a good, upstanding individual, somebody who perseveres through adversity. Uh, there's a whole host of, different places where I receive this kind of information, being
mhm.
able to control your impulses, and then also, being able to give back to your community in
Okay.
some form or fashion, being able to impart some sort of service component to the community.
Mhm.
So those are some of the things I think about. I don't want to be too long winded,
Okay.
because I know we got to get to some other things and the dark side of this. Uh, but yeah, I mean, so those are some of the things, and at face value, those things make a lot of sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, you know, uh, but unfortunately, in your pursuit, in the attainment of those ideals, or those standards of being a good man, you're
Mhm.
presented with a set of obstacles and a long, track length of hurdles. So it's not easy to live up to those ideals. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Brother Neil, and shout out to Dr. CD too. Appreciate that support. Your thoughts? When were you? Do you remember your earliest introduction to this idea of being a good black man?
Yeah, man. It it was really, through Christianity and the church,
Mm,
those are the foundations, you know what I mean?
mhm.
It was about, a kind of, Christian chivalry, being a gentleman and all of that, and respect for women and your elders, and, people who, have some sense of sovereignty over you. It was about being benevolent. It was about being altruistic, helping those who are in need. Um, giving people the shirt off your back if they don't have you know shirts on their back. So I mean, it was really, really Christian oriented. Because my mother, she was really heavily involved in the church and everything. And then that was coupled with stuff that, and even juxtaposed against, rather, kind of stuff that's happening in the environment. So you want to be this type of good Christian man versus a bad type of man, right? So
Okay.
you got the bad man who is inept. He's not taking care of his business with his family or what have you. He's absent. He may be violent, a domestic abuser. Hell, he's Mister from The Color Purple, right? And
Mm,
so your sense of being a Christian man is the polar opposite of this tyrannical, absentee man who exists. It's the antithesis of the man who is a playboy, a
mm,
man who is a nefarious, cheater,
mhm.
that sort of thing. A man who's just nihilistic and doesn't care about family, community, and everything. It's a self-destructive individual. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
there's always that polarity. And you're supposed to represent the so-called positive end of the pole. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now this, and I think, as Gigi said a minute ago, this sounds good. It sounds like what we're supposed to do. Why would there be any kind of issue with this? Why would there be a problem with whatever definition we have, or whatever expectation, social expectation there is for being a good black man? Why would it pose any kind of a problem? I mean, get a job, pay your taxes, be a good person, support your family. What is the challenge with this that most people are kind of unaware of, or especially for brothers that do know about it, are aware of, but we haven't been able to talk about publicly until only really a few years ago? What is the challenge with being a good black man? And I open it up to either one of you.
I'm gonna let Ron go first.
I think the challenge is that you're confronted with an environment that doesn't really reward the good
Mhm,
black man, or you're confronted with an environment that doesn't respect it.
mhm,
So you're conditioned to be moral, right? You're to be basically kind of a moral man, all right, and you're confronted with um, basically people and circumstances, that are fundamentally immoral. You know
mhm,
what I mean? You're supposed to be virtuous, but the people that you're engaging this virtue, with, are not reciprocating the virtue. Not all of them, but just at levels, man. I mean, there's so many levels, and so I think that's the major, problem. Especially when you think about our generation in the context of times that produced us.
mhm,
Okay, at a time where anti-heroes were kind of celebrated,
mm,
where criminal figures were lifted up, where being the opposite of the so-called good black man had some real cachet, coming up in a time where being this type of gentleman, this type of idealist, had you labeled as a weak person. So today we would call him a simp. You know
mm,
what I mean?
mm,
You know what I mean? And so in different eras, the eras the eras that preceded us, he wasn't no simp. He was a good man. You know what I'm saying? But fast forward to the 21st century, he's a simp.
Oh man, I hear you. And shout out to Dr. Gamble. Appreciate that support. Gigi, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough one because you get these conflicting messages and images. On the one hand, we did grow up in an era where black exploitation films were just they were their nadir, but I mean the imagery had already been established, and the pimps, the players, the hustlers, the dope dealers, these guys were lionized, and then here comes hip hop. And a lot of hip hop artists take on that that persona of the personas of pimps, players, and hustlers. And so I just think like compare and contrast Heavy D, or LL Cool J, who I mean who kind of I say LL Cool J kind of threaded the line. He stood on both sides of the line. He was a little bit of a bad boy, but at the same time he wasn't a criminal. But then when you get to NWA and Eazy-E, Ice Cube, and those guys, then it became a whole different subject. And then you get Too Short, and then you get UGK, and then you get all these figures. And then it became about being a street guy. And so but I mean, prior to that, the good guy was a guy who went to work.
Right.
The good guy was a guy who took care of his family and made sure his kids had food to eat.
Mm-hmm.
The good guy was a man who went to church and from time to time engaged in community service oriented projects that he spearheaded or that he associated with, members of his organizations, whether they be church-based, whether they be fraternal, Greek letter-based or Masonic-based or, a social club-based. Men were, expected to do something collectively to give back to the community.
Right.
And, somebody who's educated, if he can be, somebody who has a trade, if he can get one, or even if he can't do any of those things, somebody who's willing to actually work and toil and do what needs to be done to put money under the table and keep a roof over the family's head. So those were perceived to be the characteristics, well, at least, the bare minimum of attaining the status of a good man, but man, it's hard to be a good man. Like Ronald said, when there's so many forces out there that are seeking to obstruct you from being gainfully employed, from not even being, caught into the life of the streets. And, the funny thing about the street character, is that, a lot of us come from ghettos. Not all of us. I mean, some portion of us come from good middle class families and are able to sidestep those temptations. And at least environmentally, they're not in the proximate sphere of your awareness unless you decide for them to be. But, there are a lot of young guys who, where I'm from anyway, who, this is what they know. I mean, this is all that they know. And so the concepts of what it is to be a good person, a good man, a valuable individual, or conflicted within him, and so it's just difficult to do. So the allure of the streets, and the funny thing about it though is, I went to school with primarily white guys in high school, man, and these guys, I mean, in relation to illicit drug activity and drinking, underage, and just doing all kind of crazy things. I mean, these kids, man, did it all. And so, as a young black boy growing up, you know what you're not supposed to do because there's these messages being, instilled within you by your parents and the community at large. But then on the other hand, kids are kids, man. They take risks, they experiment, they do things that they ought not to do. They make, judgments without being reflective about what it is that they're doing. And, sometimes that can land young black men in trouble.
Right.
Young black boys in trouble, especially since the criminal system is one in which there's a laser beam, a laser focus, this aimed at us, this trained on us, and so it's like a tragedy waiting to happen. But ultimately, I approach this whole subject, and I don't want to jump the gun or anything, but I thought about it when you said it to me last night, or when you made mention of it. Today, I don't even think it's a possibility of anybody else other than yourselves perceiving you to be a good black man. Except for the few tight-knit brothers you might have the good fortune, to have friendships and associations with. The standard is impossible. You have to be strong, but you have to be weak.
Right.
You have to be resolute, but you have to be, somebody who will back down and not stand up for what he believes in, or run the risk of being, perceived as intolerant, incalcitrant, and dominating. You have to be able to endure insults and abuse, from family, from friends, from co-workers. You have to subject yourself to humiliation and show contrition, and take on, the mantle of, guiltiness. It's you have to be able to provide, but at the same time, not to dictate what the provision is going to, be allocated towards. There's so many conflicting factors. And, the way I look at it, this is a catch-22.
Yeah.
How is it possible for you to be a good black man, or a good man in general, in the climate culturally that we exist in? It doesn't matter how educated you are. A lot of people think that, because you're educated, then that that assumption is that, these guys are just, they're living in the lap of luxury and leisure. But we face some of the same challenges that anybody else does,
Right.
and it's like a big target when, when you're a big fish, and they would love to catch you. You understand? You get what I mean? It's like to some people, you're a big juicy steak. You've seen the Warner Brother cartoons, man. They're on an island, and then you look to your left, and your partner looks like a hamburger or something like that. So this is the kind of environment that we exist in, and I just don't know, like, if any of us are deemed as good anymore. I know that there was a time when, black men were valued and esteemed to some degree, but now, I think that there's a perceived obsolescence in the necessity of having in your life a good man. And one of the reasons I say this is because we grew up in an era, the 70s as children, the 80s as adolescents, and the 90s as young adults, the 2000s as 30-something, and the 2010s as 40-somethings. And there's a gradual change in how black men are perceived.
Right.
And, I've seen the offspring of my friends, man, and, some of the girls, they prefer not to have male partners. It's, you could chalk it up to, the gender, the sexual liberation culture that's prevalent now. But, the idea that, that there could be some necessity to have around a black man, like, I just don't see it right now. It's like you're a problem more than anything else. Having to deal with you on your own terms,
Right,
is a problem. And so, I'm not saying that there aren't, good black men, and that you're not good, or that Ron is not good, that other black men are not good. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the public perception even within the black community, is that black men, or they have issues, and
Absolutely.
those issues are better left sidestep as opposed to taking them on.
Well, let me quickly shout out Cedric Peoples. Appreciate the donation there. Thank you. I'm also going to bring in someone a little early to add into the discussion, Brother Marcus Aurelius. So shout out to you. Keep it 100. Y'all support his channel. Y'all support Dr. Ron O'Neill's channel. Y'all support G with a PhD, Green Gorilla's channel. Make sure you're caught up on all of those videos. Marcus, can you hear us?
He's on mute.
Yeah, I brought him in a little early. Let me see. I'll let him message me when he's ready. He must have stepped away for a minute. My bad.
I'll just say this. You all remember the film, Paid in Full, that Dame Dash did years ago. And you remember, and I think that he was playing the character AZ or whatever. The guy was working. He was working in a dry cleaners.
Okay.
And you had a black man who owned the cleaners, and he was this businessman, working class guy, hardworking figure from a different era. And you have the figure AZ who's working for him, and when you meet him, he's just a regular kid making money, you know what I mean? But then he gets exposed to the hustle, you know what I mean? And starts, working out of the shop and selling, drugs. And if you remember in the film, there was another character who was AZ's competitor, right? And the guy who's his competitor would often come into the dry cleaners, okay, because he was selling a little bit of drugs or what have you. And he would come in and he would completely disrespect the owner of the dry cleaners, okay? Because he was like, you're worthless. I make more money selling dope than you make a whole week, you know what I mean, cleaning clothes, And so, in that whole depiction right there, you have what we once considered. I'm talking about the dry cleaner guy, working class, kind of upstanding figure, giving people opportunities to work, kind of black man who we kind of craft at one time as a good guy. All right. Someone who was who worked. And what happened was that, the tables turned, he got eclipsed by the hustle and the street life, to a point where we completely lost respect in so many sectors in black society of men like that. Okay. Where, the street guys and being on the edge and being a risk taker and kind of being a venture capitalist and all that, that just became the definition of masculinity, and again, the anti-hero. And so, I mean, here we are, decades later, and the image of the most extreme expressions of the streets has basically imposed itself on all black men, you know what I mean? And so that whole criminal image is, so even if you're a guy who is a traditional entrepreneur, and you're trying to make money slowly, okay, and you're playing by the rules, all right, you're seen as something that is aberrant and abnormal or what have you, and you're mocked and even laughed at, even within the domain of popular culture. Now, not all. I don't think that all black people kind of perceive men in that fashion, but I do think that we have reached a place where those men, again, and we talked about what Kevin has done on his show, and the way in which men who are not a part of that 20% class are simply disrespected and degraded and diminished. Men who make, $40,000 a year, $30,000 a year, or what have you, they're not even placed within the category of good. You know what I mean? And and so I think that, I mean, there are levels. I mean, there are levels to it, and just to kind of take it to another level. I mean, those of us who happen to we happen to enter into the middle class. You might, get college degrees, master degrees, and whatever graduate, professional degrees you get, and you try to become a professional. There's always this underlying assumption that everything you're done, has been shaped or informed by some kind of criminality. You know what I mean? Some type of ethical malfeasance. You know what I mean? And so even your very accomplishments are rendered abject. You know what I mean? And so and that comes with a whole lot of baggage and problems and everything. And just being in that world, it's like this one of the challenges I think that you have once you've reached a certain kind of status and you're trying to be an ethical person. You're trying desperately, all right, to not engage in behaviors that would jeopardize your freedom and your safety, particularly when people test you, because you get tested. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Your morality and your sense of who you are is tested. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think that they're just this conversation. I mean, there's so many layers to it, and
Sure.
you said it earlier, man. It is. I mean, it's just so complicated. Yeah.
Well, let me do this. Let me acknowledge 3000 GT for the super sticker. Much appreciation. Also, Blade Runner 27X, who says, I'm about to say something that might be unpopular, but we Gen X males stayed in our youth far too long. We didn't realize that we would one day become our parents and grandparents. So appreciate that support. We also got support from um, what he had as soul. I may have misread that. I'm not sure. It's just like 50 Cent's grandpa in his movie, Get Rich or Die Trying. You ain't nothing but a janitor on your knees cleaning toilets. And with that, let me welcome Brother Marcus to the mic. What's up, Marcus?
Yeah, what's going on? What's up?
What's
You
up?
want
What's
to
up?
join
All
in
right,
on it, brother?
what's going on, doctors?
Hey,
What's
hey.
happening, dude?
What's
What's
up?
up, man?
All right, I want to clarify something. Am I coming in too loud? I don't know.
Nah, you good. You good.
There's a distinct difference between a simp and a quote unquote good guy. Good guys are considered lames, not simps. And a simp is an entirely different thing. A simp is someone who pretty much gives up his own self-respect or panders, or et cetera, et cetera. I think I can go on, but I think we understand what a simp is. The good guys, it's, as far as when I'm when I was growing up, my personal view of a good guy is different from what is demanded from you as a good guy, and I mean a good black man. Everything that I've ever heard, you know, defined as what makes black men good has everything to do with your service to women in our culture. Everything to do with that, whether it's your sister, your mother, your girlfriend, your wife, whoever, and your ability to, protect them and provide for them. Every woman in your life, not just your woman, but for every woman in your life, you have to protect them and provide for them, et cetera, et cetera. And you have to do that to to the point where you even sacrifice your own best interests or yourself,
Okay.
to affect that. Almost to the point where you got to be Batman. If you don't even have to be in the vicinity of a situation that's happening, if you're not there and something goes down, then you have failed to be the good black man, just by virtue of not being there when the danger happened or when the danger popped off. And as my mother has 3 daughters and 2 sons, I'm the oldest of the 2 sons, and I have experienced that most of my life, where I'm the quote unquote man of the house, and I'm supposed to, like I said, you throw up the bat signal and I'm there out of nowhere, out of the wall, I throw up the grappling hook and save you and from the falling whatever. At any rate, yeah. So But you know, this good black man trope has everything to do. I've never heard it separated, at least in our culture, from black men's provision, protection, and selfless, just selfless obligation to black women.
Yeah. I mean, you're essentially a savior. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so you're a savior figure, and you have to perform like a messiah. And you know, the savior is all about sacrificing. You know, you're sacrificing your own well-being and happiness and self-interest for the interests and well-being of other people. You know what I mean? Mainly, primarily, women. You know what I mean? You know, that's what it is at the end of the day. So yeah, there's a religious foundation to this good black man stuff, man. It's deep.
One of the reasons somebody got something going on with their mind. But one of the reasons I invited Marcus in is you had a discussion on Facebook not long ago about a brother who had actually, ran into a burning building to save his own children.
Yes.
And at one point you ended up in a debate.
Yeah.
You ended up in a debate about this. Tell us a little bit about that.
So this thing went across 3 different Facebook posts. There was one where I posted the article. There was number 2 where I posted about the debate that I was having to bring attention to the comments that were going on under the article. And then finally I made a video, and I did it direct to Facebook and not YouTube, because I wanted to address the people who were following the posts. And it was a guy who's, I know for a long time, and a woman who I've known through a friend, who were basically pushing this notion that this man who ran into this blaze and got half his face burnt off, did not deserve credit or kudos, because it was just his job to do. It was his responsibility, his obligation. So you're just doing your job. So, all these pats on the back and all of this other stuff are unnecessary for a man that ran into a burning structure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that debate went on for 2 days, to the point where the woman in the comment section even went as far as to look into the guy's background, to dig dirt up on him, to find out what kind of guy he was. And then she created this narrative that he must have been going out for drugs. Mind you, the story says that the father and the child's mother left the kids with, I think it's his mother, their grandmother. And at some point the grandmother left the kids alone. All of this is his fault, according to this woman in the comments. All of it. Oh, how did he leave them unsupervised? But he left them with the grandmother. So I would imagine the grandmother's at fault. But then the grandmother might have been on crack, or she might have been drinking, and they might have. It says that the couple went to go buy the baby's milk, but then she created this narrative of, they was going to get weed and left him with the drunk or inebriated or high grandmother, and then the grandmother leaves, and then the guy who was in the comment section, he even added, he probably left a pot on the stove. They're making stuff up. They're world building, to find a reason to make it this man's fault. Not only that, she even went as far as to say that he had an ulterior motive for saving his own children from the fire. Why did he save? What was his motive? What pushed him to run into that fire? There must be something that made him, aside from these are my children, I don't want them to die. There must be some material gain in it for this man, for him to run into. Am I echoing?
Go ahead.
In order for him to run and save his own children. And I came on there. I did the video because I wanted to emphasize that if you've seen the picture of this man's face, and you could see, he has bandages all around his head, and you look at his face, and he looks like Harvey Dent from Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. That means that this man's face was cooking
Mhm.
while he searched for his children.
Hmm.
And that is not good enough for these people because he was a man. Because you know that if a black woman ran into the fire to get her children, there would be all types of parades and GoFundMe's and all types of, pats on the back and love and outpour of empathy for this woman. And they could not bring themselves
Yeah.
to say that this man deserved the same.
Now let me jump in here. We got a super chat from M Lavo. Much appreciation to you. We also have one from Great I9. I put both of the word blurbs up there, and I want to welcome BGS to the dialogue. What's up, brother? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
we
part of the reason that I wanted to kick this off is in the last couple months, I've been seeing these articles about Will Smith. And there was all kinds of speculation going on about his, and I'm not going to go into his marriage, whatever, but it kind of got me thinking because in terms of how we imagine the role he plays in our social memory, Will Smith has represented the so-called good black man, right? At least the imagery he upholds. And one of his latest roles has been that of the patriarch of the Williams family, right? Serena and Venus. And one of the things we saw was the outright rage and frustration about seeing him being presented as the foundational reason why these two young women became famous tennis players, right? Irrational but extremely intense frustration and rage. So much so that I've met, I know women in my own sphere that won't even watch the movie because it doesn't because the idea that he's being celebrated, right, is taking priority over just talking. And that's what they want. They just want to talk about the girls. They just want to talk about Venus and Serena, and we really don't need to acknowledge it. And when you ask them why, no clear reason, nothing he particularly did. It's just that the focus is not on them. There's an inherent problem with the focus being on a black man, and that really got me looking at this whole question of the social expectations about what it means to be good black men and the extent to which so many people don't even want to broach the subject when it comes to black men who are actually following through on these social expectations and not even wanting to have them acknowledged. And that includes some black men whose argument is, well, we don't need to acknowledge them because they're just doing what they're supposed to do. And this is the kind of dialogue we have going where, no matter which way you go, acknowledging black men for doing what we were told we're supposed to do is not something that's supposed to happen. And yet at the same time, it's okay to lob frustration, rage, and disrespect at black men who are doing this. BGS, chime in on this. What are your thoughts about this whole good black man narrative? Then I'm going to come
Fami-
back to it.
Familiarity breeds contempt, right?
Uh-huh.
Anybody that's ever been in a long-term relationship, if you come in doing what you're supposed to do, okay,
And who's ever
and
loading a gun, you might need to silence your mic.
yeah, if you ever whoever's the thing is that anybody that's been in a long-term relationship, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, eventually that will become what ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now after back in say like the 50s and the 60s when we were actually under Jim Crow, a black man that going out and working every day was appreciated because it was absolutely necessary. Otherwise, the family would actually starve, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, in the last 50 years, it's become ordinary. Okay, it's no big deal. In other words, this is the minimum that you're supposed to do to actually be a decent person, right? So you going to school, now you having a good job, you working 60 hours a week, you taking care of the family is ordinary. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do, right? In other words, it's like I said, it's something that comes with the room, right? The soap and towels. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
soap and
Mm-hmm.
towels come with the room. So they're treating this like it's no big deal. You're not good. It's not a good black man because that's just ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
So so they this is what's going on. So in other words, what used to be a good black man because you were doing what you're supposed to do, taking care of the family, now it's just ordinary. So the language has changed, the sentiment has changed, and but they will complain when they don't get it. Just like you complain about the soap and towels not being there if you got to take a shower in your hotel room.
Mm.
Yeah, you know, I agree with BGS. I agree with everyone here, but you know, like toilet paper ain't important till you ain't got none.
Right.
I mean, you know,
Facts.
like that's super facts right there. You know, and you know, it's the mundane things that men do all day, every day, to keep this society, man, coherent and glued together. Like if men were just totally to disappear, like like that television series, I can't remember what the name of it is. I think it's The Last Man.
Oh,
Right?
why the
Yeah,
last name?
why the last
Why the
man?
Last Man? Like if all men were to disappear, what would happen to the roads? What would happen to the sanitation? What would happen to the water, the electricity? What would happen to the infrastructure of this country? You know. Also, what would happen to reproduction?
Right.
I mean, like, I think we live in a great age of misandry, and I think it's concealed under the veneer of justice work, where you're able to have a group of people chide, objectify, and denigrate one half of the human population, and to argue that they're members of the bourgeoisie while we, on the other hand, are members of the proletariat. And the extent to which men buy into this idea and, you know, add to it a scoop of chivalry, then, you know, you have men who basically toe the same line. And so, so, you know, I just feel to some extent that, you know, you have to be so self-sacrificial. That's one of the expectations. You have to be self-effacing. And contemporarily, I mean, you have to bear some sort of guiltiness as you walk around in order to, you know, basically put the checklist on the privilege that you have for having a penis. And I mean, this even applies to homeless men, I guess. I don't know, or men locked up and incarcerated, or, you know, men who are illiterate. I mean, there's still privileges that they have that other people don't have. Right? And, you know, throw heterosexuality into it. And, yeah, I just think that there's no good way in this culture at the current moment that we live in to actually honor men, especially black men. So, and part of feminism is part of that. But I think largely it's an excuse for people to abuse you and to objectify you and to use you, to manipulate you in order to do their bidding. And, you know, black men have to resist against this, man. Because I think that, you know, in the 60s and in the 50s, the most important issue was the color line. But right now, I think that this has become complicated by gender politics. So now we have to also work along gender lines. So we have to know gender theory now. And it's a prerequisite now if you want to, you know, do justice work for yourself, your own demographic. And, you know, I kind of disclosed, you know, earlier in some of, you know, the videos that I've done where this cleavage came from. It came from these black feminists who basically said we're the most oppressed and, you know, we're the most downtrodden. And so if we look after ourselves, we will eliminate all forms of oppression by default. Well, you know, to me, that's grandiosity. It's delusion. And it's disrespectful to us. It's absolutely, considering, you know, the kind of things that we go through on a day-to-day basis in this country, and even throughout the diaspora, like this, and even in, you know, our autochthonous land, you know, the Africa. It's like the things that black men have to tolerate and have to deal with are so disrespectful. It's and let me expose to you the players, okay, and how big of a catch-22 we're in. Okay, so the white men, what's a good black man? If you're successful, you pose a threat. If you're not successful, then we're justified in our condemnation, and in our oppression of these people and the violence that we direct towards them. Okay, so you're not good to them. To white women, you're no good. Maybe as a sexual object, maybe as a good partner because we have these liberal-minded views about what we're supposed to do as a role as a husband and a father. But for most of white women who don't couple with us, these are the facts. The vast majority of white women marry white women, and just like black people typically marry black people. We haven't crossed the color line just yet. Not saying that we can't ever get there, but we're not there, to where race doesn't have any impact or any influence at all in who we choose to mate with. But ultimately, for the vast majority of them, we are a threat because of sex and reproduction.
Okay. And I think Marcus,
Candygram from Marcus.
Candy.
From Marcus.
Candy. To black women, we're a threat to their social ascendancy. And to everybody else in the world, we're also problematic. So if you're doing well, you're a problem. If you're not doing well, you're a problem. If you're mundane, you ain't doing good enough, so that's a problem. So there is no good black man. I'm not saying that, objectively that there isn't. I'm just saying in the public conscious at the current moment, we don't have an idea of what a good black man is. And even if we stare one right in the face, we don't have the audacity to give him his flowers. And it's like, who wants to do work? Who wants to do work that's not appreciated on any level or on any score? Why not check out? And that's what a lot of men are doing.
Go ahead, Marcus.
The man on my post debated me at length. And this, again, I say the man, but again, he's a guy I know personally. Because he was the one that initiated the debate. He was very open to the idea that he did not deserve any credit or kudos for, like, if his kids were on, in a fire and he had to run in there to get them, he would not consider himself a hero. That was his exact words. But I look at, like, when guys say this stuff, I look at it as virtue signaling, because they want to be seen, saying these things so they can, get approval, by women who might be passerby reading the post. It's like a guy that, I ain't gonna say his name here, but I probably sent, I know I sent Doc Hasan some screenshots, of a guy who every day this guy is tearing down black men on Facebook, and I just jump in his posts and light them on fire. The fact that anytime anything positive is said about black men, whether it's a stat that say we're the most involved fathers, or we run into a burning building, anything that I post on Facebook that shows a black man doing good things is received negatively by black women. All right. I recently made a post, and I don't know if you guys saw it. I said, you can post something about black fatherhood and black motherhood separately and just watch the responses you get. Right. You'll either get negative or no responses on the fatherhood post, and you'll get the motherhood post will go viral.
Yeah,
because of what black men or just men, period, we're just associated with everything negative. And then there's the sugar and spice and everything's nice, and versus the snakes and snails and puppy dog tails, right? As far as black men doing good, there's always more boxes to check, right? When you're winning, and you're eligible to earn that title, to for everything they say. Well, if you do this, then we'll respect you. If you do this, then we'll follow you, we'll submit. Once you achieve that, there's always a new hurdle or a new box to check. They'll say, well, you ain't do this. you know, and it always ends with, well, you ain't overpower white supremacy or some nonsense like that, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Well,
You know,
let
and
me
Mike,
jump in real quick. We got a super chat from Project 8020. I want to shout that out. We also had a cash app from Brother Paul. Pretty much appreciated. Go ahead, Dr. Neal, and then there's something I want to add into that. But go ahead.
yeah, I think what we have to really take seriously, man, is that a lot of this has to do with anti-blackness and internalized anti-blackness. I
Mhm.
mean, the reality is that when we talk about black people, then we talk about black women a lot. I mean, black women see us through the lens of white supremacy,
Mm.
and it is internalized. This is how the girls are being socialized right now, and it's that with the misandry and all of that. I mean, the idea that black men who attempt that it's impossible for a black man to be virtuous in a traditional sense, that any type of uh, exercise of morality or whatever on his part has to be suspect. It's held under suspicion, question, and what have you. I mean, it is profoundly racist, man. It is just racist. Look, man, I've got Bell Hooks just died,
Yeah.
and she wrote a lot about black masculinity. I mean, I got her book right here, we real cool, where
Mhm.
she's attempting in her own mind to reconstruct black masculinity, and she looks at fatherhood and relationships and parenting and all that from black
Mm-hmm.
men, and she has absolutely nothing good to say about black men as fathers,
Mm-hmm.
black men as brothers, black men in a variety of levels, black men even money making. Even she pathologizes black men who go out and try to become competitive in this capitalist system. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it's just deep pathology all throughout. And I said this on my Facebook page the other night, man, is that she really had this kind of colonial imperial approach to black masculinity. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And she saw us savages and we needed to be civilized. She also saw us as children. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And we were just
Mm.
deeply infantilized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
That we can't be men.
We're
And
not
so
white. Yeah. We're
yeah,
not
well, no,
white.
yeah, and the
We.
thing is that her, from my standpoint, I mean, it was just deeply racist. Even her father,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the things that she said about her own father, man,
Right.
from a different generation, who made it possible for her to become who she became. She
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
just denigrate her father all
Mm-hmm.
throughout her writings, man. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And this is pervasive. This is pervasive. This is what we're talking about. So
Mhm.
it's deeply internalized
Mm-hmm.
racism that passes for justice and all that kind of stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
And what the language you call it? What do we use? We call it anti-black misandry, and that's all it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. And as a matter of fact, I think that's become a feature in gender studies, particularly Black gender studies.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I used to use Mark Anthony Neal's book, for my
New
Black
black
Belt.
man.
Right. And I know that when I got to that section where he was talking about his family, I noticed the way he downplayed his father in a particular way, and it really
Mm-hmm.
made sense in terms of what is acceptable as proper gender studies. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine him highlighting and centering his father and downplaying his mother, and that being accepted as
Mm-hmm.
proper analytical gender analysis? Not in this day and age. You know what I mean? So I'm seeing that. And to your point, Dr. Neal, about bell hooks. It's interesting because we had to read this stuff. We actually spent decades reading Black feminist thought, and you didn't
Mm-hmm.
need to take a feminist class. You could take a writing class, and if the teacher was a feminist, you had to read Black feminist writings or whatever. So we read this stuff. I can't find very many feminists who will sit down and even read Black male studies scholars or works. You know what I mean? But we had to actually engage that. And as far as her death is concerned, it's interesting. I've been hearing brothers politely acknowledge her passing, wish her family their condolences while saying, I don't agree, but being fairly respectful, if you look at the dialogue. But, David Carroll just passed, and I'm already being sent videos from people, celebrating his passing, celebrating his death, calling him all kinds of different things. And it's an interesting juxtaposition to see the way Black men who are outspoken are kind of regarded, and Black women who are outspoken, because we can go back to Bell Hooks, and we can talk about the Central Park Five and her discussion on Black men, or those Black men who were celebrating this type of hyper masculine ritual, so on and so forth. Highly problematic about perspective about Black men, and a certain acceptance of a norm in white society about how Black men were viewed, ordained and supported by many Black feminists in the 80s and 90s. And yet you still got brothers who are at least able to be respectful about her passing. We don't even know how Carol died yet, and you already got videos being
There was complications of COVID.
Oh, it was.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the bad part about all of this to me is the proliferation of the sentiment of misandry amongst Black folks, in particular these Black scholars. It's bankrolled by these white folks, man, in the academy.
Yes.
And that's the tragedy behind all of this. Your voice is amplified the extent to which you make deprecating statements about the nature and the character of Black men.
Right.
You get paid the louder you ignore, or the louder you flout. The louder you issue invectives and diatribes. You get paid for that. Yeah. All you have to do is say these N words ain't shish, and then all of a sudden you got some money coming your way, bro. You got a job, you got tenure, you got your new book about to get accepted for publication. You got a new paper or article that's about to get published. It's so at some point, I'm saying to myself, look, and Curry's work, man, it just basically points out how a lot of these feminist writers, even the white ones, they just took racist social science and flipped it and interpolated it into their research. And all it is the ontological argument that men are, Black men are just inherently, malevolent. And I just think about what other group of men. I mean, white men have to endure this to some degree, but not with the ontological component related to it. Because basically they're going to get chewed out for being abusive and dominating and controlling. But they can't. It can't be argued that they're not inventive, creative, and that they don't have control over their geopolitical orientation in the world. They don't receive that. Okay, but on the other hand, as Black men, we get not only are you savage and violent, but you're violent to no effect. It's not ordered violence. It's just wanton, senseless. And the most vicious kind of violence, just pathological to the core. And this didn't used to be. I mean, in the 60s, this did not exist. I mean, it did. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there was some women who had some sentiments, about Black men. But I mean, in terms of the pervasiveness of it and the public acceptance of it within the context of the Black community, like in the 60s, you couldn't get somebody like Coretta Scott King to say something about Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah. You couldn't get Betty Shabazz to say a bad word about, in private they might, okay? But like in public, they would not do that. You couldn't get what's the Fannie Lou Hamer to say something about her husband.
Right.
You could not get that, right? And up into the 70s, you wouldn't get that. But now it's become publicly, politically, socially acceptable to be a misandrist. But at the same time, it is reprehensible, deplorable to be a misogynist.
Right.
And what I say is that there's a double standard, and I say that there's a veneer of social justice going on, but underneath it all is a cavity.
Mm.
Okay, and that cavity is basically hatred for that which you either admire or you hate, because that hatred is basically juxtaposed with a thought about what you're supposed to be receiving from somebody that you have no intentions of providing for in your own way, your own unique capacity. Okay, so there's just no respect.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, that's why I did a show on the Daughters of the Confederacy. Here's a group of men who lost the Civil War. The first thing the women did in that culture was they began to build up the ego of those men. They erected statues in honor of them. The women are the ones who collected the resources and did that. They edified those men because they knew that they needed them in order to have some sort of cohesion and in order to create some sort of, stability within the context of their community. But us, on the other hand, I mean, I said, we fought in the Civil War. We won.
Yeah.
We won. Now tell me how many statues you see anywhere. In the North, anywhere, in a black neighborhood, anywhere, lionizing the black men who fought in the Civil War, which was part of the reason why we have the kind of political environment. I mean, it's not perfect, but at least it's better than what it would have been had the Confederate Army won the war.
Yeah.
But there's no acknowledgement of it, none whatsoever. Okay, I can go on and on. There's so many people on the panel, man. I'm gonna withdraw for a minute, but I have to get this off my chest. Like,
I wanna address Karina in the chat, right? So she says your panelist Marcus misspoke when he said a greater societal value is placed on the parental sacrifice of black women. I misspoke. You tell me an equivalent to even though you were a crack fiend mama, you're still a black queen mama. That's referring to men. And then you can argue with me.
Yeah, there's always has been. That's why Du Bois said it. Like I said, Fraser said it. That's like the Modern Reports actually named the Negro family. Okay, from his book. Okay, he talked about he had like 6 or 7 chapters on the black matriarchy, right? And he said that which is why black women actually clings to their children no matter what. Black woman could actually be homeless and not give up her children. Why? Because her whole value as a woman in society, in black society, is keeping her children. Right. So so black females, the black matriarch, the black mother is actually more key in our society, in our black society. Okay. Bill Cosby used to joke about it, right? Train up an athlete, right, and make him a great athlete, and he gets in front of the camera. What does he say? Does he say, "Thank you, Dad"? No, he says, "Hi, Mom." Okay. That is the psyche that's built into the black society, right? Kobe Bryant, because I remember when Kobe Bryant was going back and forth with his mother over her trying to sell his trophies and his memorabilia that he collected by being a pro, right? Okay. He said you can't sell that stuff. It's not your property, right? They went back and forth. You know what you know how many men that had to argue with saying that that's his mama.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's his mama. You have men that believe that Kobe was supposed to do more for his mother than his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
crazy.
That is the gynopotestal. I'm gonna use your word, Doc. Gynopotestal matriarchy thinking that has been inbred into men, right? In fact, I got a book. I just got a book talking about the Chinese gynocracy, right? About how the family formation, right? Where children do not know their fathers. And all the siblings are all the siblings, uncles and mothers and stuff like that are all dedicated to raising the children of the maternal line, right? Where the grandmother, the matriarch, is actually head. Okay, so and basically, if you actually look at it, the black family is actually socialized exactly that way. Okay, exactly that way, where the matriarch is actually ahead, and the motherhood. Okay, it doesn't matter whether the mother is on is on assistance, right? She could have six baby daddies, right? Six baby daddies, six kids, right? She's still going to be a great mother according to them. And we have been singing songs like that. There's a song called not Patches. I can't remember the name of the song where he talked about his mother being a prostitute, right? Because she had 12 kids, had 14 kids by so many different men, and then one day the father up and ran away, so the mother had to take care of him. He said he did song after song, and this is in the 60s, about the importance of mother and how they lionize motherhood no matter what she was. So
Yeah.
this is not new. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I dismiss that. That's nonsense. For this false idea that, we don't put mothers. I mean, you know what you have to do to fight a woman for custody in this country? What you have to prove, as far as you have to go. I mean, you just had a man lose his mind last week over that exact thing, right? So this idea that we don't give mothers what do you call it? What did she say? Greater sacrifice value.
Oh yeah.
Knock it off. All this praising single mothers and all of this stuff, like you're being praised for a situation you created from your own choice, right? And you want praise for that, and again, these boys that they're raising are trained to do the same thing once they get older. You know what I mean?
Remember the situation in Houston, and Doc just did this, right? Because Doc put this up, right? Doc actually put this up on his Facebook post about the situation in Houston where the three boys had to live in an apartment with their dead brother's body for a year, right? And Doc put that up, right? And Doc, that really hurt Doc, right? For the boys actually go through that. You know what they blamed? They blamed the father of the child that didn't even know that where the boy was. Father had been looking for this kid for like the last 6-7 years, couldn't find him, right? But they said first thing they said, where was the father? Now this woman allowed her racist redneck boyfriend to kill her son, and she hid the body for a whole year, right? Paid the rent on 2 apartments out of her funds, right? And nobody blamed the mother. It's always where the fathers of these children.
But see, this is the issue I have with that way of thinking, right? So, I've done videos on this. In Western culture, men were considered to be the custodians of children, not women. It wasn't until the Custody of Infants Act that all of that changed.
Facts.
That was 1839. Okay,
Facts.
When the British Parliament decided, okay, well, the children, it's in the best interest. But the idea of the best interest wasn't really actually there yet, but it's the precursor, right, to that whole line of thinking, right? To me, this is, and they were the full custodians. Men were, not women. Now, women make birth children, but men were perceived as being the custodians of them, okay? Even in divorce cases, okay? So women were then, in 1839, able to petition the court. That's the end of patriarchy right there. At least legally, okay?
Yes, I agree with you 100%. But yeah, go ahead.
Because if you're not in control of the family, then you're not in control of the nation. Because you can't dictate the values and the mores of the children within the nation, okay? And this is deliberate. Because even on the right, though, there are men who are saying, look, we need fathers. We need strong fathers. But on the left, they're continuously pushing this narrative, well, fathers aren't necessary. Well, men in the house are not necessary. Family structures where fathers are there aren't necessary. Like Brittany Cooper recently did, some post on Twitter, I think, where she was like, well, the men aren't really actually needed there But then when something goes wrong, why wasn't he there? But I mean, he's not.
Yes.
He's necessary for the sperm component, but he's not necessary for the educative or the nurturing component. And the reason why they hate a movie like the one Will Smith was recently in, because it creates cognitive dissonance. When you have men who are actively involved in the life of their children and have unfettered access to put them on a regimen of discipline and education, a lot of times those kids turn out to be great. Okay? But unfortunately, what we're doing is we are promoting pathology. And there are a group of people who have an interest in this. Why? I mean, do you think white folks in the academy have an interest in seeing a functioning, flourishing, thriving black community?
No.
Apparently not. Even the liberals don't. I mean, they give lip service to it, but I don't think they actually do. Because if they did, they would look at the objective conditions that obtain within our communities and want for us what they want for themselves. See, I know feminists, man, who got husbands and don't give their husbands a whole bunch of flack. Yeah. I know feminists who make more money than their husbands but give their husbands the check. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I know. I was educated in an institution in which the head of the Women and Gender Studies department is married, and a husband teaches masculine studies.
I mean, most of them come from two-parent households, man. I mean, the vast majority. Brittany Cooper comes from a two-parent household. All of them. The ones the loudest ones who talk. When the ones who talk about, single mother families, female-headed households, and who celebrate them, the vast majority of them were raised by a mother and a father, biological parents. The vast majority. You'll be hard-pressed to find professional feminists with PhDs who were raised in single-parent households. You might find them, but you're hard-pressed. They're outnumbered by those who they have, middle class, upper middle class backgrounds, and so I mean, it's ridiculous.
We'll put it this way. Okay, look, white women basically, man, took over the civil rights movement, man, and thrust themselves in a position, which Curry wrote about it. It's a backlash. It really wasn't a movement; it was a backlash. It's like, oh hell no, we ain't gonna have these black men telling us what to do. They're not gonna be ahead of the line in front of us. We're your mothers, your sisters, your daughters, your nieces, your aunties, and so on and so forth. How dare you give these monkeys political rights that we don't have? And so they thrust themselves into the position, the jobs. They've declared themselves to be a minority, and they use the language in comparison to black and Native American men. Like, I mean, it's clear what they've done. Okay? Now, but at the same time that they've done this, right, they've convinced black women to take up their talking points. Like, I can't understand how women who could be so educated, could be so politically naive. This is what I don't get. I don't understand.
Shout out to Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She said that about the suffrage movement back in the 1860s. How dare you, right? How dare you give these monkeys and these shines rights that we don't have? Same thing.
But what's confusing is many of these women study social and political philosophy, right? You have to be either they just sold out.
They did.
Or what's even more scary, they actually believe what white people say without being critically evaluative.
It's both.
How dare you give these monkeys, these black men, rights that we don't have, which is what Moynihan was which was the Kerner Commission and Moynihan Report and the Kerner Commission was trying to do. Give black men a leg up, okay? Make them, quote unquote, patriarch-like, okay, to lead their families. And they said, how dare you give black men rights that we don't have, right? So they just took them. The one thing that white women and black women agree upon is that the black men do not deserve the rights that they don't have. In fact, they deserve less. That's the one thing they agree upon.
But
they have for 100 years. Go ahead.
But this is the issue, though. Okay, that I have with this. Like, and I was talking to like the Amwale cat, right?
Yeah.
I did a show with this dude. You know, he asked me to do the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about.
Has that come out yet?
I don't know. I haven't watched it because
I don't
I
think
never.
so. I haven't seen it.
I'm not disrespectful. You know, the guy. I probably didn't say the things that he expected for me to say. So,
Okay.
I don't know. But I mean, we had a good conversation as far as I was concerned. But ultimately, you know, going back to my original train of thought. Look, we exist right now in the United States of America, and we got a group of people who should know better. They have to know better. You got to study. Look, the political departments that are supposed to be orientated towards African American studies have undergone a radical change. Like the students in San Francisco, 1968, black nationalistic students, man. Okay, nationalists to the core. They're the ones that the nationalist black students in the 60s are the ones that started the African American Studies departments. Okay? Who's a black nationalist in an African American Studies department nowadays? Who?
Wow.
But you
I'm
know,
just asking the question, right? And the reason I'm asking the question is because now the African American Studies departments are feminist, intersectional, assimilationist departments, bro. I mean, I'm not trying to be ignorant, you know, or calling them out and saying that they don't, you know. Some of them there is okay, but nothing but them there in those departments is a problem. You have to have a consortium of people in departments with divergent viewpoints so that people can be kept honest, right? And so that there's a multiplicity of original thought being conducted there. But when you have like these univocal departments. And basically, they're handpicked and selected by white people, man. I mean, who's the safe Negro? Not all. I mean, sometimes they do take a risk and they get, you know, who they perceive to be, you know, maybe problematic or had a difficult time. Not to say it doesn't ever happen, right? But I mean, the vast majority of these people have to have a certain viewpoint and a mindset, okay? And to me, these people in these departments are influencing these young minds and indoctrinating these kids into hating their own community. Like, this is unparalleled in human history. Ron said this earlier, man. Like, this is an experiment that has never before happened in human history. Where one half of the population is perceived as useless, but are the glue that holds it all together. I mean, like, how dare, like, men have to also be to some extent, men have to be have a high tolerance for abuse.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, like super high, and self-effacement and debasement, right? Because if men finally decide to pull the plug on this and say, "Hey, look, okay, that's how you feel. Okay, we're withdrawing our support."
Exactly.
Then what's going to end up happening? Because men are the glue that holds the society together. It just is what it is. But I go back to even like ancient African culture, man. Whether you believe in Ma'at or whatever the case may be, man, it's about order, truth, and balance. You know what I'm saying? It's about balance. There is no balance here, man. There's no balance at all. There's no harmony, no righteousness, no morality, no justice. It's disharmony. Like when we can't even live amongst each other in harmony to raise our children. That's supposed to be the boon, the gift, the fruit of the relationship. It can't even be done now. Because, you know, it's all about neoliberal, you know, value systems permeating every area of black life and being pulled and pushed into a million different, you know, places and spaces. Whatever the culture says, all they got to do is put it on TV, we do it. All they got to do is put it in a music video, we're on it. Whatever they tell us to think, whatever class we sit in, and they talk to us and they tell us something, we don't sit back and critically evaluate it. We just accept it. Oh, I like that. Ooh, you speaking my language. Ooh, I learned it. I mean, not to say that there are some smart and brilliant black women in these courses, in these classes. Not saying that they're not any at all. But I mean, come on, they can't be so dim-witted as to not see
No,
You
I
can't.
think, yeah, I think, listen, that they are complicit. They
They're
know,
complicit. Yeah, they know.
they know,
Yeah.
they know what's going on, and they don't push back against it because they benefit from it. All
Mm-hmm.
right, they get crumbs. They get crumbs. They understand exactly what is going on. All right, the ones that we're talking about, they support it.
Mm-hmm.
And they
They
know that
protect it.
and they're
They protect
protected.
it.
Yeah, they're
Mm-hmm.
protected, and a lot of them who hear us, they know we're right.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of them, a lot of those folks in our arena who have put their ear to the door of the manosphere, black manosphere, or who
Mm-hmm.
have followed our pages or what
Yeah.
have you, and who have read some of our stuff. They agree, but they will never, ever, 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 ever publicly acknowledge that what we're saying is correct. They
Yeah.
would never
Mhm.
do that.
Dr. Neil, because when man, I'm so appreciative that you guys are just here, man. Sometimes it brings a tear to my eye, right? Because for so long we've been reading these books, pulling out the information and presenting it, and academics that have PhDs say we never seen this, we don't know this, we don't know anything about this, right? Because we can't prove that they actually did read this stuff or know about it, right? And you
Mm,
guys come out and say, yes, they do know.
mm,
I can tell you how they were trained. If they just they're not even pretending to ignore it. They actually lying out bold faced lying about it. They do know. They
It's
read the
it's
same
yeah.
stuff that we're reading.
But
I
it's
mean,
just like the woman who created the Duluth model of domestic violence. I think her name is Aaron, not Aaron, but I can't remember her name now. The last name is a P. It's not Aaron Pizzi, but it's another woman who has a name that starts with an E. But
Mm-hmm.
look, this woman, she admitted that she just made and concocted some stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
mhm. Yeah.
Like admitted it. It's an article written called "Some Thoughts on Philosophy," and the journal's name's "Some Thoughts." No, not it's Community Responses to Domestic Violence. That's the name of the book. But like the article is "Some Thoughts on Philosophy." She sat there and told the world step by step, "This is how we made it up." And like to some degree, we were errant. We were involved in confirmation bias when we did it.
Mm-hmm.
But you think that that's going to change the social landscape? No, it's not, because it's easier to start a mess than it is to make a mess than to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
bro, think about the black people who are part of the Tuskegee syphilis study. All
Okay.
right, I'm not talking about the patients. I'm talking about those who administered the study. I'm talking about those who are at Tuskegee. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
about doctors and nurses. I'm talking about Robert Morton, who was the president of Tuskegee when the study was commissioned. Okay,
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and they knew what was going on. And that study went on for 40 years. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And when penicillin became available during World War II, which could have essentially ended the study and cured
Right.
those men of syphilis,
Right.
they chose not to do it in order to continue to get money from the government. Okay. And it wasn't until it was exposed by white male journalists in the 70s that anybody knew what was happening with Tuskegee. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that we could again, even 20th century, you have this case. You got a history of black complicity.
Mm,
These
Mm-hmm.
black professionals knew what the hell was going on, and they're no different from those folks who were involved with that study.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you want to see, I mean, HBO did a film years ago, back in the '90s, called Miss Everett's Boys, which
Mm-hmm.
depicts a lot of it, and then you can read James Jones's book, Bad Blood. He talks. There's a whole book on it. You know what I mean? And so
mhm.
the thing about it, man, is that we have to we have to call out the complicity. Yes, they know what's going on. They have colluded, and that's why I use the language of colonialism, man. And I go back to these European powers, man. You look at, man, I've studied India, man, and I look at how the British created an elite within India. Okay,
Mhm.
and the elite within India, you had a Brahmin class who was comfortable with the British Empire and everything that the Brits did within the subcontinent of India. So much so that when Gandhi rose up and you had other opposition that rose up to kick the Brits out, Those Brahmins refused. They did not want to change the status quo. They did not want an independent India because they were codependent on British resources. Okay, and so what is true about that is true of so many other parts of the world that have been colonized in Africa and the like. You know what I mean? And so we're dealing, and that's why using language of colonialism, black women, the professional, educated class of black women that we talking about, they are colonized elites. Okay,
I call them
they are
colonizing agents. Yeah, go ahead.
agents, administrators, all of that. They know what the love. They know what the devil is going on. They're not naive. They know what's going on. They have bought into whiteness, white supremacy, and everything, and they are running with it. And they run with the illusion that somehow or another they are free, and somehow or another their codependency on the white ruling class is going to ultimately elevate black people, which is not going to happen based on the way things are arranged right now. But I mean, that's what we're dealing. We're dealing with a complicit class of black people.
And that's and look, that's coon, man. I mean, basically that's coonery. And look, these people have basically typecast an entire demographic of men in the worst way. They have categorized us as sexist, abusers, and the R word. You know, I'm not saying it on your show because I know you want to monetize it, but they've basically typecast us in these ways. And less than 1% of the men of the black male population can even, lay claim to have any, committal of such actions. But all of the rest of the men get painted with that broad brush, and it gives an excuse and a license to women to basically use the I called it a long time ago. I said they have the ring of Gyges. They can commit acts of injustice unseen. They are seen, but it's perceived as justice in and of itself, even though we know it's not. Because it has the color of justice, because the world is colored the way that these folks want it to be. Okay? They can commit heinous acts against us, and nobody will bat an eye. That's just business as usual. Programming completed. Right? I mean, it just is what it is. Also, I said, I called it racial hypergamy a long time ago, too. Like this idea that they decided to run with them. They chose them. They said the grass was greener on the other side. I say it's astroturf over there. You ain't gonna grow nothing out of it. You're really not gonna grow anything out of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's why it's important to have conversations like this. What is a good black man? To be quite honest, if we're using gender politics as a form of racial warfare, there is no good black man. There's nothing you can do that's good. So stop trying to be good for anybody else. I mean, hold on. Let me get this out though. Like it's like I grew up with the expectation that I would raise a family. We need to stop having that expectation anymore, man, because the rules have changed. The values and the mores have changed. You like I still lived in an era like when the R&B was sugar pie honey bun. I'm gonna give you the best of my loving and all this kind of stuff. Lou Rawls and the Whispers and all of this.
Right.
Like I mean, like now it's like I just want a quickie. Like the Miguel song. I just need a quickie. I got some WAP.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not to say that there wasn't some loose and kinky music back then, because you had Rick James, Give It To Me Baby, Super Freak and stuff like that. But I mean, you still had the idea of normalcy related to love, family building, and community building. Now you don't have it. All you have is I'm out for myself. They give lip service to wanting to find a good man. But that man has, to be in the top, like you said, 20% of men. And even when they get attached to these guys, like Marcus said, it's always another box to check.
Yeah.
It's you're not good even then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can cook, you can be babyface, bro. He can buy her clothes, come home, cook her dinner, wash her clothes after you get home from work. You can do all that. That's gonna be you weak. You ain't challenging enough. You're a street dude. You a bad boy. I'm gonna tell the police on you. There's nothing you can do. But here's the deal. You have to want to do right by people. You have to want to actually, you got to have the seed in your mind that I'm gonna have a relationship with a man. Not that N words ain't ish. Like, this is my man. Like, you ever see the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to go to the planet Navi, or whatever the name of that planet is, man. Navarre, whatever it is. I need to find me a blue chick with 4 fingers, dog.
He said,
Hey,
And the reason I say that is, man, did you see how that woman rolled for that white boy, man?
There you go.
Did you see what she, like, how she put herself in front of him, man? Like, this is mine right here.
Like Pocahontas, huh?
Like, I mean, like, if you touch him, you got to come through me. Like, that's what she did. Now, did she not?
Yes, she
In
did.
the movie, though, right?
Yes, she did.
But one of the things that you got to understand is that if women don't embrace, women are really actually supposed to be your image protectors and your ego protectors. That's what they're supposed to, especially if they say they love you.
all right.
That's what they're supposed to provide for you. They're supposed to build you up, not destroy you. They're supposed to support you, not break you down. But contemporarily, man, it's all about what can I get from a situation? What can I get? And if I don't like something, then it's his problem, not me being persnickety. I can't be abusive. I can't be, but they know they can be. You're a human being, you know right from wrong. Intuitively, I mean, you got some sense of what right and wrong is. Like, but I guess if you chose to be devilish, that's what you chose to do. If you chose to be selfish and evil and conniving, that's what you chose to do. Ron, I don't know what you believe, bro, but if there is a cosmic arbiter at the end of this temporal existence, it's a lot of people, man, gonna burn in hellfire, bro. Because they're not even trying to do what's right. They're trying to do what's beneficial to them only. And that breaks every rule of every major theological tradition throughout human history. There is no, like, I mean, any religious tradition is going to be comprised of men and women, operating in a cooperative way in order to create and build communities. In what major religion do you see anything to the opposite of that? Maybe some mystery cults where you got, like, lesbian priestesses or something like that. But I mean, come on now. That's a huh?
I'm still tripping on I need a blue chick.
No.
Man, I'm serious though, man. I mean, because like even in ancient Egypt, bro, the woman is standing behind the man with her wings spread out over him. Just like the divine spirit, protecting, as he protects you, or the spirit protects you like an angel. They supposed to be your angels, not your vampires, not your succubi. But I mean, there's myths about that too. You know what I'm saying? Like how women can be, like there's Circes. You know what I'm saying? There's Medusas out here. You know what I mean? But like we done lost all sense of that because women have been romanticized ever since the Victorian era. Right? That shit, like we're under a spell, dude. The enchantment is over for me. I'm done with the enchantment. And it's not that I hate women. That's not the issue. I don't like injustice, man. I don't like lies. I don't like disinformation. I don't like selling a group of people out in order to, gain only for myself. Because in the end, how long do you think that ruse is going to last? I mean, it's cool for you at the moment, but in the end, like we talking about generations from now. What is this doing? What damage is being caused?
Right.
Check
And
this
that's
out.
Go ahead,
Let me
bro.
jump in. I think that in a lot of these conversations we misunderstand the objective of Black women to be the same objective that we want, and it's not. It's just not. So it's kind of like, you know, when we say, hey man, this is racist and it's unfair, and this country or these laws have failed us. No, it has not failed you. It is working for the people it's meant to work for. So understand when we say you know, that hey man, this is tearing down a community and et cetera, understand that's not what they want. You know, earlier I heard, I think it was Dr. Neal said you know, that they're, you know, acting as if what they're doing is to uplift the community, their you know, allegiance with, you know, white supremacy or whatever. No, it's not that. It's to uplift themselves. Listen, the system gives Black women a lot of stuff that they do not bring back home.
Uh-oh.
Okay. All right. When we had the Black Panthers, what we had? Free lunch, we had programs, we had this, we had that, we had a bunch of things coming to the community. BLM brought us what? Nothing. What it did was it enriched the pockets of the women running it, and now you don't see them anymore. They took the bag and ran. Understand, they do not want what we want. They just don't. All right. When we get something, we bring it back to the community. They bring nothing back. All right. So, you know, whether it's $850 a month in Atlanta or whatever, any crumbs or chips that they get from the greater dominant society, they wave in our face and tell us that we're weak and, you know, the state is doing more for them than we are and stuff like that. You go to other cultures, that's not what they do. You know, Asian women who I think, from what I understand, are the real most educated women in this country. When they make their incomes, they're not waving it in the face of Asian men. You understand what I'm saying? Oh, we got the bag. We don't need you, Asian man. That's not what happens. All right. So we gotta, you know, accept that. You know, Dr. Neal hit it on the head when he spoke earlier about, you know, most of these women that are feminists coming from two-parent homes. I have my brother has a stepdaughter who he does a lot for, and her father raised her, not her mother. Her father raised her, and I've done a lot for. I've tried to, you know, put on the, you know, different things as far as, you know, the financial, you know, game and everything like that. And she's, you know, she's been to school. She got a little degree in some nonsense, right? You already know, right? But she's diehard feminist. She has 3 men in her life trying to, you know, like she hasn't seen no hard time. She didn't grow up in no single parent existence. And she, you know, well, men this and black men that and black men this. That's not even your life. Right? So the one more thing I want to say is you know, a good Black man, according to Black women, is anything that serves a particular Black woman in the moment. In the moment. It could change tomorrow. You are good if you serve a particular purpose in the moment. All right, because, you know, our definition of a good Black man, they made fun of the Will Smiths. They made, you know, any man that's you know, doing good by his woman, you never hear him in the news, this, that, and the third. As soon as she gonna take him for the bag or this or that, you get 1,000 likes, 1,000, you know, thousands of shares, this and that. Yes, sis. You know, so they, you know, what they pretend is not so. Like, they're not after the same things we're after. So when we say in the long run, this, that, they're not concerned with that. They're concerned with right now, today, what can they get out of it? You know, you got a bunch of women on OnlyFans that are not thinking about the windfall down the road of their OnlyFans content, right? That were not in this industry before this. But yeah, they don't want what we want, man.
Wow.
Point blank.
Yeah, that's, I mean, these are the conclusions that Black men are coming to based on what men are living. And that's what I want, especially the audience that's not necessarily clued into this dialogue. I want them to get, right? These are the conclusions Black men are reaching based on experience, not based on something anybody's told them to do or anything like that. These are and this is bigger than the manosphere. This is bigger than YouTube. This has actually been something Black men have been talking about for the last 40, 50 years amongst each other, but not with any major platform.
Yeah.
But it's just
And,
reaching a point where people can actually hear it out loud. Go ahead.
and I just have to say, man, just from a personal perspective, man, I had to come to a place in my life where I had to reject these notions of a good Black man. Okay. And I rejected it. I rejected the idea of being a moral man. A lot of it is connected. I was once very much, invested in the church and everything, and I severed ties, with
Wow.
with churches. You know what I mean? As a consequence of that, you know what I mean? And if you catch me in the church right now, it's because I might, get an invitation to speak somewhere, what have you, and. But the thing was, man, is that I had reached that place, because your good is never good enough, okay? And there's always that pathology. And at the same time, in order, for me to speak the truth of my life and my truth of existence, it meant that I had to crush these ideals, that have not fundamentally serve my life well. So I mean, like those of you all know, man. On my Facebook page, I'm always talking about living out loud. And
That's right.
and that comes out of that. I mean, living out loud, not really giving a what about what these Black women think about me, their perceptions, their opinions, and what have you. Not trying to live up to their standards, and everything connected to it. You know what I mean? And just charting my own path. You could say, just join the dark side. You know what I mean, or whatever however you want to frame it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think each Black man, in his own evolution, he has to deal with that. He has to deal with it, man. And that's why it's difficult for a lot of Black men to hear some of us talk about Black men's self-interest, Black men, caring for themselves. Again, I just did a video about Black men taking care of themselves. You know what I mean? And I've talked about Black men being like unapologetically selfish. Because you don't have people who are being unapologetically, selfless towards you. You know what I mean? And so if there's no reciprocation, if you don't have a culture that is sacrificing and investing in you, all right, there's no need for you to go overboard, with those kind of investments the other way around. You know what I mean? And I'm not proposing that one becomes, like completely nihilistic. You know what I mean? I'm not saying become a sociopath or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm saying is that you have to, pursue your interests in an intelligent fashion, man. I mean, that's what BMI is all about. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, man, I had to reject a lot of those notions. And like Gigi said, man, I put it on my Facebook page over the weekend. When I was 25 years old. I expected to be married and with children by the time I turned 40. Okay.
Yeah.
40 hit, and it didn't happen. Okay. And for many reasons that we talk about here in this manosphere, and I said that, this country is just very difficult on Black men. And if things were different, hell, I'd be married. I'd have adult children. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I gave up a whole lot, man. I gave up a whole lot because, just the rewards were just not there, man.
Well, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get not only everybody in the panel, but everybody in the chat. What I want you to do, I want you to come up with a one sentence breakdown of just one aspect or one definition of a good black man. I'll give you an example. So these are just a few that I jotted down, right? As far as the expectations on what a good black man is, you are to date and mate monoracially, right? You're supposed to stay with black women, in other words. It's you let others define your manhood for you. I don't know any other group that have so many different demographics, most particularly women, telling them what manhood is. Right? I find it interesting in the black community how often this happens. Others tell black men what manhood is, right? It's an expectation that you be a stepfather. And this is something I grew up with. As a matter of fact, by the time I hit 13, I pretty much thought it was inevitable that I would meet a woman with kids. Right? I didn't even know that was something that I could turn down because it was so much of what I saw every day. I thought it was an expectation.
It's funny. Other races now think that black men should become stepfathers.
Wow.
So it's funny.
Well, the Disney thing. And,
No, Disney thing. And also Art was talking about, he was asking about talking to his Latina students, right? They're in high school, right? And she talked about her mother and said, how did your mother feel about black men? Well, my stepfather's black. So,
wow. Yeah.
so it's funny you should mention that, but go ahead.
Man, this is ridiculous. Well, so you guys can see it. The other one is you shouldn't have any standards. Now, this is something we've been talking about for the last year, most especially. Women can have standards. They can say they want 7 foot tall men. They could say 6-figure earning men. There's all kinds of standards that women can impose, and men don't generally even push back. We just hear it and we respond. You might have a couple short brothers put their bid in anyway, but we don't really push back, or at least historically we haven't. But they can have standards. You can't. As soon as you say whatever your standard is, it's immediately a restriction or a difficulty for her. Right? So you have this kind of one-way kind of sense of being free to establish boundaries and standards for yourself.
Next, and preferences, no preferences.
And preference, absolutely, absolutely. Expected to be self-sacrificial, and this one is multidimensional, right? You part of how we define black manhood, especially in the black community, is what I often call you have to fall on your sword. You have to be willing to fall on your sword. There's an expected chivalry. Now, this can come across politically. It can come across in terms of economic expectations. It can come across in terms of establishing, standards and who you want to be with. At the end of the day, if there's a conflict, men are expected to be the ones to fall on their swords and allow, whatever she wants to do to be the standard. Okay, I got a few super chats. I need to shout out Herbert Harris, BMRC. Appreciate that. Black Man Swimming. I'm going to post those on the screen in a moment so people can read what you had to say. But the self-sacrificial part is huge. But prioritizing her and her kids, right? This is often what black men will tell me they hear about in terms of your money is our money, my money is my money, but your money needs to take care of me and the kids. And especially, I shouldn't say especially, but even if the kids are kids she had prior to you even meeting her.
Package deal,
right? Yeah. And then the last one being will love women despite how they're treated or whether they're loved back. And this one, unconditional love. And this is interesting. It's one way unconditional love.
One unconditional love, yes.
One way unconditional love, and this is part of the framework. Now, I know people will say, well, we should be talking about, in nationalism, we should be talking about, politics. We are. We are. Because at the end of the day, and this is something Gigi alluded to earlier, if you can't define the parameters of family, you can't even get to the nation. You can't even get to the politics, the economics. This is the framework here. It begins in the linking that establishes the family. And if you can't get across that barrier, how are you going to have any other conversations?
Do you think that what men are in their frustration, knowing that they cannot convince or change the black women that they're with, they're trying to find a way to bypass her? In other words, we can't work with her anyway. She's going to be what she is, and her negative and toxic, whatever it is. Okay, if we still have to do what we got to do. We have to bypass her somehow. We got to make a nation in spite of her. We got to make a nation. We got to make things change. Is it? I'm asking, is that what we're seeing? Because I keep hearing this over and over and over again. Never mind them. They're toxic. They're dysfunctional. They can't stand us. All this other stuff, right? We got to bypass them and still got to do what we got to do.
Right.
Well, I've said that Black American women do not hold a monopoly on blackness. You know, there's Black women all over the world, and I know that in some of these places, they too are like this, but there are a lot of places where they are not. And if you, I think most of us, we visually we prefer Black women. I mean, that's why we're here talking about this. I don't think that anyone here, if they did not prefer Black women, that they would even bother with discussions like these. You can point it out to be objective or whatever, but for the most part, this is Black men's attempt to reconcile with Black women. All of these discussions, all of these critiques and whatever. But if you one of those guys, because I recently had a live where I had a bunch of guys on there, they guys were suggesting what you're saying, BGS, and I don't know if you were on that live or I know you were listening to it, suggesting to date out, marry out, whatever, and you had guys on there worrying about the the genetic annihilation of the Black gene or whatever, and that's not something that can actually happen. I'm not even worried about that, but if that's something that is important to anyone, again, American Black women are not the only Black women on the planet. And I think that because of proximity, because of a lot of men don't got it to get on a plane and go somewhere else. Right. They feel like they're trapped with these women.
But I think what, to speak to BGS, what he's saying, I mean, I think the reality is that we have to accept how Black women and even how Black girls right now, have been socialized, man. I think it's a very real thing, and any man who, any heterosexual man who wants to connect with a woman for a long time, marriage or what have you, and he is aware and he knows of this negative socialization and how pervasive it is. He has to make some decisions about how he deals with this population. And I agree with Marcus. Yeah, I mean, we got Black women all over the world, in the Caribbean, in Africa, in South America, all over the place. You know what I mean? And you expand your pool, and hell, you don't have to even be confined to a Black woman if you're just open to more. You know what I mean? But I think that yes, the natural conclusion that one comes to is that you have a pool of women who are programmed in such a way that it makes it difficult to be in a relationship with at a long-term basis, and to expect any type of mutuality and respect. And you hate to, here's the thing, I hate to write off an entire population, right? But I mean, I think that's why SPM gets at. You know what I mean? Is that you have to recognize that this culture, we're dealing with a culture that is pervasive. It exists at every single level. And again, I put it on my Facebook page last week. I've been teaching young women for close to 20 years. You know what I mean? And college age women, and I've seen it. Teaching at a HBCU, teaching at a predominantly white institution. I see the programming. I've seen it for 20 years. You know what I mean? And I've encountered and dealt with it.
Yeah.
The stuff that Kevin deals with, I've dealt with that. Okay.
Yeah. In the classroom too.
Yeah.
You know what? This is what I'll say about that, Ron. It's a mixed bag, because I've seen some women who have not been indoctrinated, but then I see some diehards. I see them come in not knowing a damn thing, and then these women who are these feminists, these intersectionalists, come and the next thing, like 2 or 3 classes later, they come back to you, and they got a whole new set of ideals to to throw around. But the academy is the place where especially the professional, educated Black women. When I came up, they weren't being taught this shit. Not at the undergraduate level, okay? But now it's commonplace. Look, I used to teach AFAM, man. Look, they gave me a syllabus and said you have to include this. Put the trans person shit in there. We need that. We want you to cover, you know, the Kimberly Crenshaw. You have to have them read this. Otherwise, we don't want you to teach the course. I'm like, they don't do that shit to me in philosophy, bruh. I mean, not at all. Like, they don't go over anything. Man, I could pull out Dr. Seuss and shit in a philosophy course, man. They wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But to teach an AFAM course, you're going to tell me I have to cover these subjects?
Yeah. Look, man,
bro.
it's gotten to a point where I've seen feminists, womanists, even, you know, I've seen hardcore women that actually supported black men having their own voice and whatnot. I've seen them use other black men as attack dogs for black men who do want to speak freely. In other words, I'm saying I've seen this from both sides of the fence. Women that are antithetical to this conversation we're having and women that were seemingly supportive. At some point in time, I've seen both of them, you know, do everything they can to shut down these discussions, even sending other black men to do it, like missiles or attack dogs of some sort. This is the kind of things that I've seen happen in this discourse, and I've seen them try and silence it in the classroom to whatever extent it's happening. And I wouldn't say it's happening to a great extent in these classrooms at universities, but it's nonetheless happening. But earlier, what I was saying I wanted to have happen, I wanted you guys to, from your experience, contribute other bullet points in terms of what the expectations are on a good black man. And I want people in the chat to do the same thing. I want us to develop really a sense of a set of bullet points on what it is we've actually had imposed on us about this idea.
Hey, man, I got one for you, and then I'm dropping out because I think this is the killer right here. A good black man is really a black woman.
Oh my goodness. Ooh, that hurt.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be our show for tonight.
It might sound crazy, but I mean,
ooh, I felt that one in my soul. Oh my goodness. Ooh, that hurt.
Yeah. I feel like getting kicked in the nuts, but that was real.
Ooh.
God damn.
I want some elaboration, just a little bit. So go in on
I mean, you know, look, I'm right now. It's a tongue-in-cheek statement, but I mean, think about what it actually means.
Yeah.
I mean, like they feel like they can do everything we can do better than we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't need you. A good black man to them really is a black woman.
Okay, I got what you're saying now. You're saying they want to be men. Because I've been saying that.
No, it ain't that they want to be men. They already think they are the men.
Well, in other words, black men are supposed to be black women with penises.
Well, functionally, they're right.
Ooh. Okay.
You ever heard that one song, man, by that one dude, man, that come on, and it says, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man.
Yeah.
I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Go run tell everybody. You don't know that song?
I do. I do.
Man, it's a dope song now.
It was in a commercial. It was on the Apple commercial.
It's all in the sports. I'm the man, I'm the man.
Yeah.
It's a black dude that sings it, man. I can't remember his name.
Very popular record.
But yeah.
Damn.
So I mean, look.
Damn.
Otherwise, if it is the case that they don't think that, then how can they be so dismissive to men?
Wow.
I mean, they practice it. Everything that they chase. You know, I told a friend of mine, you know, who sometimes is on my lives. She's talking about, you know, her career and chasing her career. And I'm like, you're a dude. All of your aspirations and this and that, you're the guy. You're the man. She's talking about, you know, she wants to have a child, but she's this career woman. I said, understand how that usually works is, you know, there's two people, right? And one person tends to the child and the other person tends to the money. You're trying to tend to the money and the child is one person, right? So you're trying to be the man and the woman, right? But she's, you know, still single, still no kid, because she's more focused on
being a dude,
being a man, and all the things that, you know, that men pursue, men chase, to then turn around and support families. Because most of the things that we aim to do, and I say we, I mean men in general, I don't mean me, because I'm different. I'm, Dr. Neil mentioned nihilist earlier. I'm closer to that. All right. Y'all heard me talk before. And but the men as a collective, usually we're trying to, achieve certain things so that we can turn around and support families. And that's not what women do. They don't, it's not, to me, it's almost for them like a sport.
It's not in their DNA.
No, I mean, they're not socialized to do that. I mean, for them, it's a sport. It's a sport. Like, they chase all these degrees or, whatever quote unquote education, and they they get all this money. I know a woman who, she became a nurse practitioner, and nurse practitioners make good money. All right. But she's still looking to be rescued. So what is the point in achieving that level of success, that level of income? What is that for? It's not just in case you don't get the guy, because if you were about the guy, you go get the guy. You're chasing this thing, all up in your late 30s and early 40s. Like, they go through this long, like, educational process.
Look, let me just say this, man. Bruh. First of all, education doesn't mean that you make the rubber hits the road. Hit the road. Like, education is a safe haven. It's like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I mean, I'm not saying that academicians don't work, but it's a white collar job. It's a white collar lifestyle. You go to school. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you sit in air conditioning classes, man. You hobnob with white folks. Unless you're going to a HBCU or whatever, then you hobnobbing with, either, some well-to-do black folks or some progressive, not progressive in terms of thinking, but in terms of, social economic mobility. So at the end of the day, it's like, I'm having a fantasy that I could live the life of a bourgeois white woman. This is what these women are after. That's what they're chasing, man. And honor. They're chasing honor as well. All of this is predicated upon, okay, I'm doing this so that people respect me for it. You're going to have to respect me. Okay, but that's a masculine trait as well. It's like I'm just saying, like, look, human beings want to be respected in general. But to prove it by showing that I'm demonstrating mastery in the public, that, that's some masculine shit. It just is. So you got to contend with men on their level. And men have the gloves on. That's the issue. Men have decided that they got the gloves on, and women are slapping and punching them with their bare fists. And men have no response. They don't know how to, because they love their mothers, bruh. I mean, I'm just telling you the truth about this. Like, you have been conditioned to be soft towards women because women are soft. Except for their hearts, which in some cases, I can't say all, because there's some good women out here, dog. I mean, I'm not saying there are none, okay? But a lot of them have hearts made of stone. That's why King Lemuel told, or his mother told him, boy, if you find a good woman, it's more precious than diamonds and jewelry and emeralds and lapis lazuli, my friend. It's a rare jewel to find a good one, because she's going to do good to you and never harm all the days of her life. She gonna be resourceful and industrious. Like, she gonna do all of the things we characterize as masculine, but she's gonna use them in order to buttress and undergird the collective, the family. She's not gonna be like, well, what can I get? I want a man like this because I want it for me. You don't want it, like, that's not love. Like, I've been trying to tell people, these women don't even understand what love is. Because love, okay, so you got three types of relationships: pleasure-based relationships, utility-based relationships, and then you have true friendship, which is what you really want to pursue if you're going to be with somebody for a prolonged period of time. Okay? Pleasure-based relationships they dissolve as soon as the pleasure is gone. There's a problem, an issue, it's dissolved because all they want is the hedonism. Okay, utility-based relationships are over when the utility from one partner ceases to exist. Like, I can't do what I used to do for you, so now you're not good enough. Okay, but then you have a real friendship, the essence of it, which is I want for you what I want for myself. The same things I want for myself are the things that I want for you. Now, if you don't have that kind of sentiment with a person in a relationship, you don't really have a true friendship.
Yeah.
You don't have it. And all I'm hearing is, I want a man like this. Well, what can you do for the man? Well, what do you mean I gotta do?
Men need to demand from women what they demand from their homies. If we went out, we would all jack. There's no expectation for anybody else to pay anybody's meal.
You're bored.
Right?
You're bored.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to expect that from the relationship, right? That, we're being told to our faces by women that, if they get a leg up on us, they will not do for us what we are required to do for them if we do. They're telling us that blatantly to our face. Like, if I get on, I'm leaving you where you at.
Yeah.
I'm leaving you where you at. And that's not, there's no loyalty, right?
So you mean they ain't got no entourage.
Yeah.
No.
So like for someone, like I said, to get to that level of income and then still want you to pay all bills, that they're not, they don't want to contribute. They consider that, oh, I'm helping you. Right? I'm helping you. You need my help.
That's why a good black man, for me to put it in, a good black man to a black woman is a means to an end.
Ooh.
Yeah, you need my help. Like, to contribute.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It's like when Michael Shea said, Black lives matter. Just matter. Just matter. We just cooperate. Just contribute. Just reciprocate. Nah, you need, you 50-50. Oh, you need. I don't need anything. I was over living in my own place, paying all my rent. Now we live together. We can't, put money together for a better life for the both of us. You was living in this apartment. I was living over here. We come into this nice house where we put our funds together, our resources together, and improve our lives. Now
I'm giving you the privilege of taking care of me and my children.
Yeah.
That's what you get. That's what you get. That's what you get.
I told women, I said, listen, man, you when you look at women's, narcissism, right? And the fact that it's kind of socialized, it's enabled. Like, the idea that we beg women to go out on a date so they could sit down and eat the food and let us watch them eat the food that we paid for.
Let us watch them.
The honor of letting me watch you eat the lobster
while they're judging you at the same time.
Yeah, that I paid for.
Wait a minute, though. I want BGS to go in a little more on that last statement.
No, I mean, really. It comes to remember when you asked a black woman, what do you bring to the table? And they said, what do you mean? I want 100K. I want a 6-pack. I want a 9-inch. Whatever. I want them to love, adore, worship me, listen to my problems, be a sensitive soul, a kind ear. All you know what the checklist is, Doc. I don't even have to tell you what the checklist is, right? Okay, because you've done this. Okay, what does he get? What do you mean? What does he get?
He gets me.
It's always me. Okay, basically, I be glad I'm giving the privilege of me. And if I have children, I'm giving the privilege of me and my children being with you.
Yeah.
So that you can have the privilege of taking care of us.
My presence is a present.
My presence is all. My presence and sometimes, not always, sometimes my vagina is all that's required from me. Okay. And sometimes after a period of time, you get that. Okay.
Yeah.
Me being here is a privilege to you.
Yeah. My presence is a present.
Is a present, yeah. Yes.
It's me
Yeah.
being here.
I mean, you can listen to them, man, because you say, as soon as what is it, because other races of women, they can say, I bring this, I bring this, I bring this, I do, I've been trained to do this, that, and so. So a black woman that says, okay, you want all this from this man, this high value man, or whatever kind of man that you want. What are you giving him? What do you mean? What I'm giving him?
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got to give him nothing.
But
So,
but
yeah.
the issue is,
Mhm.
if manhood is only developed within the context of neoliberal white collar professionalism,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a very narrow set of ideas about manhood. But I digress, bro. I'm about to
I,
pull
I,
back.
I wanna
I mean, you guys are the epitome of what I call, white collar professionals, man. Do you see it?
Mm.
I wanna address what Doc Hassan has asked us to do because we haven't
Okay.
done it yet.
Okay. Well, I think I did it twice.
Okay. So I
Go
think you
ahead.
said to what, use a word or
Yeah,
a
give a
A,
give
a
a,
sentence. A sentence. Yeah.
just a bullet point. Yeah.
uh what, a samurai maybe, or a kamikaze pilot, like
Damn.
a slave, because
A
remember I did the
CompuServe.
video. Yeah, I did the video falling on swords. I mean, any word you want to use where it's like, you're like a disciple. You're like
Mm.
you know I use the word slave. I like the word slave better than most. I mean, we went from being slaves of the white man to slaves of black women.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel, because they practice their own form of white supremacy
Mm-hmm.
towards us. We are just here to serve, like whether it be them,
Mm-hmm.
whether it
CompuServe.
don't,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
like,
much.
I said, like what because I talk to guys all the time, and me and Doc, we have these chats all the time, right? And a black man cannot even get pleasure in sex, okay? Well, no, he can't even put himself first in having sex that he paid for, right? With a relationship that he paid for, took her out on a date, wooed her, got her into bed. Basically he has to put her pleasure before his, even at that, okay?
Yeah. That
Yeah.
reminds me, I think Doc Johnson, I think I mentioned this before. Remember the movie Sugar Hill, and we were talking about the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Mm-hmm.
that reminds me of. Where he's like, I'm gonna let you top me off. Right?
Oh
That's what he
Mm-hmm.
told I forget her name, the actress that played in Sugar Hill.
Mm-hmm.
He had her in his hotel room. He said, I'm gonna let you top me off.
Yeah.
And that's giving her the honor and the privilege.
Yes.
Well, and then more a little bit about
She's
what
the queen, right?
BGS and I were talking about offline. I was telling him how, especially in the 80s, because I found this video on YouTube, and it was talking about how long sex generally is for most
Mm-hmm.
people.
Right.
And it talked about somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, as
Yes.
the average. And I said that's interesting because for black men, the way we were socialized in the 80s, we didn't calculate sex in terms of minutes. We calculated it in terms of hours. We were taught that at the end of the day, our job was to provide pleasure to women on a standard that no other group of men really have. So we would, even as early as high school, we would brag about how many
Mm-hmm.
hours you could go. And if your woman could verify that in front of everybody else, that was even better. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the standard was that. And it really wasn't about how you experienced pleasure. It was about how you gave it. It was
Yeah.
about how she received it. The more she enjoyed it, the more she spoke well of you, the better you are, and the better you were as a man. As far and it I would add, it's part of this good black man narrative. Being able to provide those types of pornographic sexual service, right?
You can't be a 2-minute man, right?
Not at all. You have to be able to put in hours of work, and in and of itself. And I think when you add a couple of decades to that, what I find in talking to black men is that when we get in conversations about sex, for example, they're not talking about necessarily what they enjoy. They're not talking about the things that they've discovered about what they enjoy. They're still talking about what we give
Mm-hmm.
and how well we give it.
Mm-hmm. And how many women we can give it to?
Yeah.
I
Which
made a
think,
holler. I made a holler when I threw a
I
leg.
made a holler.
That.
Made a holler. And I said, okay, so you put in all this work. What did you get? Uh,
My sheets are
so
wet.
which you have to clean, right?
Mm.
But I've rarely found brothers who have actually even asked themselves, did I enjoy this? Now we're socialized to enjoy the act of giving it, the ego benefit of that, but is that the same thing as sexual gratification?
When
Yeah.
I was younger, and I was kind of like under that kind of like conditioning, and this is in my 20s. I found myself having sex with women, aiming to please, and in many cases not even getting my own orgasm.
Mm-hmm. Right,
Happened to me pretty often, where it's like,
right, right.
you're doing all this work, and
Mm-hmm.
you eventually lose your erection,
Mm.
trying to please her, and because now you're and they don't, they'll hog up all the pleasure. All right, they want multiple orgasms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just keep going and going and going, and you're looking for any sign of sexual gratification from her that tells you it's okay
Mm.
for you to let off.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you never see it. It never comes, because they're in some cases hiding it,
Mm-hmm. Yes, they
right?
do all the time. Yeah.
And yeah, and then you end up just not getting your own
Well,
orgasm.
let me ask you this, Marcus.
Mhm.
When you've put in hours worth of work and
Hours.
when
We
you
talk about sex still, or
wait, well, yeah, talking about sex. Okay, let me put it this way: you put in work and you said you don't get off.
yeah.
How many on average? How often does she exhibit care that you haven't? Is that
It's
a regular occurrence for you?
no,
That she cares that you
no,
didn't?
no, no. I've had girls get off and stop the session,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
good.
I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, yeah, I
Real,
see
They
that.
real
roll over
talk.
in the fetal position and that's
No,
it.
no, they just get
Yeah,
off. Yeah, don't touch me. Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
it.
stop the
We're done.
session.
Yeah.
But nah, I'd have to sit here and really think about to remember an experience where it was like that. I mean, I think the women that actually do care from jump. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
had girls go all out, but the ones that oh well, you doing all of that, and you can kind of figure out which woman you're with, depending on how it goes, because some women are pleasers and a lot of them aren't. But you get older, and then like Tim Howard, see,
Mm-hmm.
you get older, and you care less. I got to an age where I stopped. If I'm getting topped off, I stopped telling them like, hey, look, it's about to happen. I don't tell
Mm-hmm.
no more. Hey, that's a hazard that you accept.
Except.
There's no
But
more warnings. It gets to a point where you're too grown to give warnings. That's
yeah,
when you're 20,
yeah,
21. It's like, ha, there you
yeah.
go.
I had a Facebook friend, man. I tell you who she actually was afterwards, Doc. Had a Facebook friend. She actually did a poll right to guys. Said how black men, how many of your partners that you had, what percentage were good, what percentage were memorable, right? And and it came back as far as memorable, maybe 10% of
Mm.
the partners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some with me was more like one, but 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 it's like 10% was actually memorable, and women, black women, really are not that interested in giving them in pleasure. My presence in my
Mm-hmm.
vagina and my womb is enough.
Mm. Mm.
Vast majority of women.
Damn. Damn.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're at the 2 hour 40 mark. I
Yeah.
appreciate all of y'all's patience. I had you up here much longer than I planned to,
Oh,
but
you having a good time, Doc? That's what it looks like.
Well, y'all were getting it in. It was nothing but truth bombs. So I appreciate each one of you for dropping it.
Oh my.
And I apologize for holding you up this long. But any concluding statements from any of you, and you can pull out.
I just want to, since I'm I'm not the the ranking scholar, I'm going to go first, right? Um, the problem I had with about being a good man, and I really didn't know what it was, what it took until I was in Central America for like 3 months, right? And every day I walked past little bitty shacks, right, that had no windows, a little tin shack on the top, and had no door, had a curtain for a door, right? And a family of four actually, or 4 or 5 actually lived in it, right?
Mm.
And the thing is, what I saw is that people that had nothing, men that had absolutely nothing except the shoes and the shirt on their back, right? They had more respect from their women and their children than black men getting it that make 100K. And it just hurt my heart, man, just to see them.
Damn.
To say that we have to earn
Yeah.
respect. We have to jump over hoops and take care of boodles of kids and give them multiple orgasms and all this kind of stuff to get women's respect, get black women's respect, right? And these simple people that had nothing, I do mean had nothing, that woman looked at him with a measure of respect that I've never seen a black woman look at me with. It just hurt my heart.
Wow.
Never got over that. Still can't get over it.
Yeah. Wow. Anyone else?
Well, I mean, I know Dr. Neil has been down to South America. I've been down to DR and Jamaica and different places, and I can attest to what BGS is saying, man. I've said it before. You go down to these third world nations, and these women, they take your American dollars and they go back to their homes with their poor man and contribute to that household, right? And I made the comparison. Imagine these Dominican women that these guys go and play around with, getting American money from us and parading it in the faces of their men. It doesn't happen. They take that money right back home and they contribute, and that man is in many cases is sending her out to do exactly that. And they come back home with that money. And yeah, man, yeah, we have to jump through all types of hoops for this respect. I'm of the belief being the quote unquote good black man is not worth it. It's not worth it. There's no return, there's no incentive, it's not worth it. Chivalry is dead and women killed it. It's over. And if you are still aiming to be that, you're going to face some heartbreak, disappointment, whatever, and do it at your own risk. Everybody knows for me it's SYSBM all day, and I've been this way since I'm in my teens. I've always seen women this way. I've always seen the world this way, and I'm like pretty much 25 to 30 years plus into this worldview when it comes to females, and my business was women. You understand what I mean? Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the way I see it. Do you save yourself? Be a hardcore, hardcore selfish, hardcore, self-centered narcissist, whatever they're gonna call you. Just eat that, accept it, and take all the wins that come with it. Period.
Damn. Gigi, what's up, man? You got any closing thoughts?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
you.
Yeah, man. Look, it's a hard knocks life for us, man. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. Instead of getting treated, we get tricked. It just is what it is, bro.
It's treated, we get tricked.
No treats, all tricks, huh?
Facts.
Man, hey, bro. I hate to say that, man. It's just it's a hard knocks life, man. It's more difficult. Lose your expectations, man. Expect for these people to treat you like less than a human being. And then, expect for them to do that.
2/3.
Well, I mean, don't expect, for that. Don't settle for that for yourself, but expect that that's the standard by which you will be treated. Okay, just understand that. Like, you are here to provide services and to give things to others, but people aren't there to give things to you. Their presence to them is, like you said, a present. But at the end of the day, man, I know I've been away for a while. There was a brother who posted something in the chat. He said he was worried about Gigi. Don't worry about me, man. I'm working on a master plan, man. I'm a diabolical genius, man. And sometimes
we know, or don't we know?
sometimes I have to focus on something else, man. And right now I'm focused on something else real fast. But and hopefully it'll manifest very soon. What I'm doing is time consuming. It requires meticulousness. And so I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, and I'll be back at you real soon. And in fact, I would like to get you brothers up on a video, man. I got a video that I want to do some commentary on called Nation Time.
Okay.
And we're going to look at the Black Nationalist Convention that took place in Gary, Indiana in 1972, man. Listen to that and see what them brothers talking about, man. Because, that point was the point at which, we had a choice to make. That was the fork in the road. Which way are we going to go directly after the Civil Rights Movement? And the choice, I think, has been made, man. And I don't know if we're ever going to be able to recapture the energy that existed at that time. And not to say that, anything is impossible, but it's looking grim a la grim, man. Find you a unicorn, man. Don't settle for these mares out here, man. Find you a unicorn, man. That's what you need to do. If you're going to get one, you better get a unicorn.
You better. Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? So, but understand what a unicorn is. Because they'll love bomb you at first. I was listening to New Jack Swing yesterday. BBD is oh so beautiful. Relationships, they seem from the start.
They are.
It's oh so deadly when love is not together from the heart.
Do unicorns stay unicorns, though? That's the question, Doc.
Wow.
And now see, this is where my work becomes important. See, I don't really there are a group of men in this space who perhaps deviate to it because it's somehow connected tangentially to the pickup artist community and dating coaching and all of that. My goal is not to the guys who have problems getting, vagina. That's not the issue to me. My issue is with guys who've been married for 15, 20 years and all of a sudden she brand new, got a Brazilian butt lift, or got some butt shots, and now she want the house, the cars, the kids, and the dog. I want it all. You know what I'm saying? I want it all like brand new socks and drawers, and you better give it up smooth. And then you got these white people like, give it to her, gapple banging. That's what I'm worried about, man. I'm worried about how these women can get you jammed up. And I think that we can I can't do anything about the subjective preferences and the attitudes and the dispositions of individual women or collectively. I don't feel like I have that kind of gravitas to change their minds. But what I can work on doing is changing public perception of reality, and then perhaps maybe, trying to inspire brothers to seek some policy initiatives, man, so we can get rid of some of the, this arbitrary injustice that's taking place in men's lives. So,
I hear you.
There you go, bro.
Much appreciation. Dr. Neal, your thoughts, your closing thoughts, sir.
Yeah, I'll just say, man, just to echo, what I said earlier, and even in the video I posted this evening, man, we only have a finite amount of time, on this planet, man, and you want to, maximize that time as much as you can, and you don't want to waste it on something that is not going to reward you or bring you happiness. any type of pleasure. You know what I mean? And pursuing that good man ideal, the good black man ideal, would take a lot out of your life,
Yeah.
and it would eat away a lot of time.
Yeah.
Okay, and so for the young guys who are listening, you know, the sooner you emancipate yourself, you know, from this stuff, the better, man. You know,
Mm.
because you don't want to live under this, um, you know, this ethic, this ideal, you know, and never come to the realization that it was all an illusion. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
you know, so I would just say, you know, abandon it, live your life, you know, maximize the time that you have here, man. You know, and as I always say, brothers, just live out loud.
Right. I'm gonna bring you guys down. I appreciate all of you for coming up. Thank you.
Peace out.
Peace.
Out.
Peace,
Y'all
peace.
have a good
100.
All
and
right.
blessed holidays to whatever holidays you practice or whatnot. But let me go ahead and take y'all down real quick. All right. So here's the thing. I wanted to have this conversation about what a good black man is so that we can actually critically assess it. And I want us to actually be able to decide something we were not really told we could do, whether or not you wanted to live up to that or define it for yourself along a different set of parameters. But I want you to actually have the freedom to do so, especially as we head into the holidays. And we know, and I talk about this a lot, this is the season where we see people taking their lives, right? Over anything from isolation to being mistreated. And I want to make sure that you guys have the means to support yourselves, the means to provide yourself some kind of mental peace, especially from the expectations of the world. At the end of the day, I want you safe and I want you alive. I want you to remember that no matter how bad things get, things always change around, especially for those of you who find yourselves alone during this season. You know, winter can be pretty cold as far as that's concerned. And I know it can be pretty painful for a lot of folk. So at the end of the day, keep your head up, fellas. Keep moving forward. I love you. I want to see you survive and thrive and do well. So please don't let any of this negativity out here shape how you respond to it or how you see yourself or how you engage the world. Keep your head up. Keep moving forward. And at the end of the day, as I always quote KRS-One in this instance, stay alive. All things will change around. My best to y'all. Y'all have a good night, good season, whatever you celebrate that to be. And I'll see you soon. All right. Get this going. All right. Peace. I am here to tell you, brothers, we are not criminals by birth, perennial rapists, incapable intellects, man-children, sperm donors, child support well springs, success objects, walking phalluses, ATM machines, lottery tickets, unintelligent henchmen, valueless assassins, pro bono mercenaries, unpaid bodyguards, interchangeable stepfathers, child discipline proxies, unpaid repairmen, workhorses, emotional tampons, or any other socially accepted dehumanizing stereotype. We are thinkers, inventors, innovators, leaders, fathers, and men. Embrace your humanity, know your worth, and extend your time, attention, and resources only to those who genuinely respect you. And remember, your worth is not defined by meeting other people's narcissistic and selfish and unrealistic needs. You define your worth. Peace.